LoveLore Library. Chapter 528. I have a way most of the people at the scene could tell that Fatty Lie didn't really want to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus. Instead, he was just bidding for fun, trying to trick House Kong. Why else would he bid like that? Even if he had money, he wouldn't do it like that, would he? Kong Guifeng's blood rushed to his head. He was about to bid 85 million when Xiaolong stopped him. Xiaolong's mission today was to accompany Wang Xinyan, but now that House Kang's promotion to a noble house was set in stone, he didn't want to accompany Wang Xinyan anymore. He might as well come to the auction and see for himself. Xiaolong, what are you doing? Kong Guifeng frowned. Didn't you hear your grandpa say that we're determined to get it? Dad, it's true that we're determined to get it, but we need to use some strategy. Xiaolong said quickly. Blindly bidding like this will only make the price go higher and higher until it's out of control. Oh. Kong Guifeng was getting impatient. What do you want to say? Hurry up and say it. If we don't bid, we'll be letting someone else buy it. Guifeng. Listen to Xiaolong. Let him bid. Dr. Kong had a long talk with Xiaolong yesterday, and after seeing Xiaolong's performance in front of Yu Haitian this morning, he valued Xiaolong a lot more than his eldest son, Kong Guifeng. Kong Guifeng could only keep his mouth shut after hearing his father's words, 86 million. Xiaolong raised the bidding card in his hand and quickly explained to his father and grandpa, earlier, when we increased the price by 5 million, it showed that we still have a lot of money on hand. This way, if the other side is trying to trick us, they'll definitely continue to increase the price after hearing our increase. So I'm only increasing the price by 1 million to show that we're weak. If they're really trying to trick us, they'll think that we're at our limit and can't afford it anymore. Just like yesterday, they gave up when we couldn't raise the price anymore. If the other party is determined to get it, then whether I add 1 million or 5 million, it will be the same to them. Let's see how they raise the price. In fact, Kong Guifeng also understood this logic, but he was muddle-headed just now. Now that he heard his son's explanation, he realized that he was indeed a little impulsive. Dr. Kong, on the other hand, looked at his eldest grandson with satisfaction. Xiaolong's ability and calmness in handling things were undoubtedly better than anyone else in the Kong family, 100 million. Fatty Lie called out his final bid. Xiaolong didn't think that the opponent would be so determined. He had already shown weakness. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have increased the price like this. If he couldn't afford it, wouldn't he have to buy it? Did he really want to buy it? However, this was also hard to say. Fatty Lie was representing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, and House Kong wasn't the only one who needed the 1,000-year-old snow lotus. Other people might need it too. Xiaolong wanted to raise the price, but he couldn't. House Kong really didn't have any money left. Xiaolong wasn't an impulsive and reckless person. He spent 15 million on Wu Qintian yesterday, and House Kong only had around 80 million left. It could be said that the price just now was House Kang's limit. Grandpa, we don't have any money left. Xiaolong took a deep breath and said unwillingly. We still have to buy it first. We can't back out now. Dr. Kong gritted his teeth. This 1,000-year-old snow lotus had to be in his hands, or all of House Kang's plans would be ruined. They had even taken out 2 pre-sale products of the Skin Beautifying Golden Creation for auction tonight. If they couldn't get the 1,000-year-old snow lotus, how were they going to deliver it? Thinking about the Golden Creation and Skin Beautifying Golden Creation products later, Dr. Kang's heart calmed down a little. 101 million. Xiaolong didn't pretend anymore. Since he had to get it, he might as well raise the price bit by bit. Let's see if Fatty Lie had the patience to keep this up. The price exceeded 100 million, and Fatty Lie had to turn to look at Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, House Kong was at its limit. He didn't want to give up now. "Boss, should we still bid?" Fatty Lai whispered. "If that box is really that important, I think we should go for it again. We can increase the price appropriately. You just need to control it well." Lin Yi nodded. With the income from yesterday's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, Lin Yi didn't really care about the money. "You want that box?" Xiao Xiao heard Fatty Lai's words and looked at Lin Yi curiously. "You don't want that 1,000-year-old snow lotus?" Lin Yi didn't want to explain, but he was afraid that Xiao Xiao's laughter would be heard again, so he explained, "What I want is the box outside, not the lotus." "Ah. What do you want the box for?" Xiao Xiao asked curiously. "Don't ask so much. I'll tell you when we get back." Lin Yi didn't want to talk too much with Xiao Xiao. What's with your attitude?" Xiao Xiao wasn't happy. "Hey, if I help you get the box, you'll be my boyfriend?" "You have a way?" Lin Yi asked, ignoring Xiao Xiao's words. "Of course." Xiao Xiao nodded and rolled her eyes. "Do you agree or not? What do you want to do?" Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't agree to Xiao Xiao's random suggestion. "Don't worry about it. If you agree, then it's a deal." Xiao Xiao winked at Lin Yi. "Forget it." Lin Yi shrugged. Lin Yi couldn't agree to something like this just because of the box. Xiao Xiao was furious. She glared at Lin Yi. "Then you can't ignore me from now on, okay? We'll talk about it after you get the box." Lin Yi didn't object this time. Now that he had Tianlong, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore Xiao Xiao. "Then you have to cooperate for now. Whatever I say later, you can't say no," Xiao Xiao said. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded. He could cooperate for a while, as long as she got the box. At this time, the price had risen to 110 million under Fatty Lai and Xiaolong's bidding. The two didn't increase the price by too much. It was a matter of who could last until the end. Xiaolong had just made a bid of 111 million, and Fatty Lai made a bid of 112 million. Chapter 529. Chapter 529, Buying a Makeup Box. Fatty Lai, are you fucking doing this on purpose? You went against us yesterday, and you're doing the same today. Kong Guifeng couldn't take it anymore and stood up. House Kong didn't have any money to begin with. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to pay for the Snow Lotus even with the money from the auction tonight. Moreover, the Kong family couldn't go bankrupt just to buy this Millennium Snow Lotus. It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't have a penny in their hands. Xiaolong sighed. It was too late to stop his father. But since he had already gone against Fatty Lai, he couldn't back down anymore. House Kong wasn't afraid of trouble. On purpose. Fatty Lai was about to give up, but after Kong Guifeng's words, he didn't want to give up anymore. He stood up and retorted, "What, you're the CEO of Dr. Kang's medical group. Don't you know what an auction is? You can bid, but I can't." Xiaolong had to stand up. He was a member of House Kong, and since his father had stood up, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. But Xiaolong's voice wasn't as aggressive as Kong Guifeng's. He spoke calmly, "Mr. Lai, my dad didn't say that you can't buy it, but what's the use of this Snow Lotus? Can you tell me? This herb is precious, but it's not something that every Chinese medicine prescription needs, right? What's the use of it?" Fatty Lai laughed. "Do I need to tell you what I'm buying it for? Can't I just buy it for fun? Why don't you tell me what you're buying it for?" Xiaolong smiled. Fatty Lai's words were exactly what he wanted. He wanted Fatty Lai to say that so that he could move on to the next step of his plan. Xiaolong had already planned everything from the moment he stood up. Mr. Lai, I can tell you. Xiaolong said. We're a medical company. Although it's for profit, our goal is to save lives. That's not wrong, is it? Fatty Lai frowned. He didn't know what Xiaolong meant, but he didn't refute. Mr. Lai, the Kong family bought this Millennium Snow Lotus to save lives. As the saying goes, saving a person is like putting out a fire. This Millennium Snow Lotus is a guiding drug. The patient we are treating now only lacks this guiding drug. Xiaolong continued, neither servile nor overbearing. We may have some conflicts between us, but I hope that Mr. Lai will consider the fact that we're both sacred healers, and look at the bigger picture and the patients. If you're just buying it for fun, you should give it to us. After all, we need it to save lives. Xiaolong's words silenced the crowd. Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. Playing with me? You're still too young. Who the hell do you think you are when it comes to playing dirty? One had to admit that Xiaolong's words had tilted the public's opinion towards House Kong. He'd said he'd buy it to save a life, and if Fatty Lai were to fight with him now, wouldn't that be a little too much? Besides, Fatty Lai had said it himself. It was a fight for fun. You're playing, and he's saving someone. How could it be the same? If you didn't give it to him, then you'd be leaving someone to die. You're also in the medical field. Don't you know about the benevolence of a doctor? Was he supposed to watch others die before his eyes? Of course, Xiaolong wasn't afraid that Fatty Lai would change his words and say that he'd bought it to save a life. It was too late to change his words now. How could there be such a coincidence? You're saving someone else's life. He didn't believe that Fatty Lai would do that. He'd be looked down upon even more. Fatty Lai frowned. He'd wanted to give up already, so he didn't play any tricks with House Kong. He'd just say a few words and be done with it. He didn't expect this Kong kid to be so cunning. With just a few words, he'd put himself in such an unjust position. Fatty Lai had been smart his whole life, but he'd failed miserably. It wasn't Fatty Lai's fault. Even Lin Yi had asked him to give up. Why would he bother to deal with House Kong? Who said we're fighting with you for that Millennium Snow Lotus? Xiao Xiao stood up before Fatty Lai could say anything. Oh. Did I hear it wrong? Xiaolong smiled faintly. He wasn't angry, but he was frowning in his heart. This Xiao Xiao wasn't a good person. She'd almost killed Xintian yesterday. This girl was a sly one. What Millennium Snow Lotus? I want to buy that box. Xiao Xiao pointed at the box with the Millennium Snow Lotus on the stage. I think this box looks good, so I want to buy it as a makeup box. What does it have to do with the Millennium Snow Lotus? Xiao Xiao's words silenced the auction immediately. So Fatty Lai had been bidding for so long just to buy a makeup box for this girl. Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. You're spending 100 million on a makeup box. Who are you kidding? Xiaolong didn't believe Xiao Xiao's words at all. He knew that Xiao Xiao was a weird girl who wouldn't even blink an eye at all. From what he could see, Xiao Xiao standing up at this time was probably to help Fatty Lai out. After all, he'd said that he wanted to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus to save a life. And Fatty Lai had no choice but to give it up, but wouldn't he lose face? Xiao Xiao's actions saved Fatty Lai's face. Since she was buying a makeup box and not the Millennium Snow Lotus, she wasn't fighting with him on purpose. Oh. So you're buying a makeup box? Lil Sis Xiao Xiao has quite the unique taste. Xiaolong wasn't Xintian. How could he believe Xiao Xiao's words? Yeah, why don't you give it to me? It's not easy for me to fall in love with something. Xiao Xiao smiled at Xiaolong. She was as cute as she could get, as cute as she could get. Xiaolong humphed coldly. Trying to play this trick with me? It's no use. Do you think I'm Chintian? Do you think I'm that easy to trick? Fine, Xiao. You made me spend 15 million yesterday, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet. You came to me on your own accord. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think that I'm easy to bully, won't you? With that thought, Xiaolong had a plan. He didn't look at Xiao anymore and turned to Fatty Lai. He asked in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, Mr. Lai, so this is the box you want? Not the Millennium Snow Lotus. Yeah, I'm helping her buy this box. Fatty Lai understood what Xiao was trying to say. He had to cooperate with her, but he didn't know the details of her plan, so he felt awkward. Chapter 530. Chapter 530, Who Tricked Who? Xiaolong thought to himself. Even if you're a fatty, I'll make you fatter today. I'll make your face even more swollen. Play with me. I'll play you to death. Xiaolong nodded and smiled. Then I'm sorry, I misunderstood Mr. Lai. It seems that Mr. Lai didn't want to fight with me for the herb, but rather, you wanted to buy the box. I misunderstood you, Mr. Lai. You don't have the heart of a doctor. I'm ashamed. Nonsense, why would I want the herb? It's not delicious, and it's not fun. Xiao humphed. Since you know, why don't you give it to us? Haha, Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. Even if you didn't say it, I'd give it to you. But, it's not the herb, it's the box. Don't you like the box? Don't you want to use it as a makeup box? Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Who do you think I am, Xiaolong? You dare to play this game with me? See if I don't cripple you. Haha, of course. Xiaolong smiled. Since it's a misunderstanding, then it's easy. Xiao sis likes the box, right? How about this, after I get the herb, I'll sell it to you for 50 million. I won't make you spend too much, we'll split it in half and take what we need. What do you think? Xiaolong looked at Fatty Lai and Xiao darkly. He wanted to see how they were going to deal with this. Xiaolong was sure that Xiao was lying about buying the box as a makeup box. Haven't you heard of the story of buying the casket and returning the pearls? Who would do such a stupid thing? So, Xiaolong used Xiao's words to turn the tables on them. In this way, they were caught in a dilemma. If he wanted to save his face, he would have to swallow his pride and take out 50 million to buy the box back. If they were shameless, then Xiaolong wouldn't force them to buy it. But from Xiaolong's point of view, Fatty Lai's company had just been established, and he was a famous person. He wouldn't lose face over something like this. That would be too embarrassing. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng looked at Xiaolong in astonishment. They didn't expect Xiaolong to be so shrewd. Not only did he seize the initiative of the auction with just a few words, but he also wanted to sell the wooden box with the snow lotus to Fatty Lai for 50 million. This was simply forcing them to buy and sell. The Kong family was still worried about the lack of funds, but in the blink of an eye, they extorted 50 million from others. Most of the people in the auction didn't think that Xiao was telling the truth, but there was nothing wrong with Xiaolong's way of handling things. You wanted to buy the box, and he sold it to you. What was wrong with that? Xiao pretended to be angry and widened her eyes. She pointed at Xiaolong, speechless. Xiaolong was very pleased with himself. With this little girl's IQ, you can only fool that idiot Wu Qintian. Compared to me, Xiaolong, you're still a long way off. What do you think? You shot yourself in the foot, didn't you? This time, you have no choice but to buy it. All right. 50 million it is then. Thank you, Kong, for helping me. Fatty Lie's expression was also very interesting. He gritted his teeth and said hatefully. After Fatty Lie finished speaking, he sat back down with a gloomy face. However, his heart was bursting with joy. He didn't expect the girl beside his boss to be so powerful. With just a few words, she got the box for half the price. This was amazing. He secretly gave Xiao Xiao a thumbs up. Xiao Xiao grinned and turned to Lin Yi. Hey, I did what I said, didn't I? Ha. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to have so many tricks up her sleeves. She just tricked someone yesterday, and now she's doing it again. Not only that, she made the victim think that she got a great bargain. Aren't you going to thank me? Xiao Xiao was a little displeased. She was taking credit from Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't look too happy. Didn't I talk to you? Lin Yi asked. Humph. Xiao Xiao turned her head away. What kind of person was this? He helped her out of kindness, but he didn't even say thank you. On the other hand, on Dr. Kang's side, Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng were both very happy. Dr. Kong even praised, Guifeng, this son of yours is not simple at all. It looks like our house Kong will be flourishing in his hands in the future. This 1,000-year snow lotus worth more than 100 million has been cut in half. It's just for the sake of the situation. Xiaolong said humbly. 100 million is too high of a cost. Even if we make the skin beautifying golden creation, we can only make 30 or so servings. Even if we sell it for 5 million each, it'll barely cover our costs. Although we're doing everything we can to become a noble house, isn't it better if we can save some money? That Xiao Xiao probably hates your guts right now. Dr. Kong smiled happily. People of the same trade are enemies. Even without what happened today, they'd hate each other already. Xiaolong didn't care. He said proudly, that girl was the one who tricked me into eating yesterday. If I don't make her pay, how can I face her? But, will they go back on their word? Find some reason to reject it. Kong Guifeng was worried. He was afraid that he'd lose the meat that was right by his mouth. That was 50 million. For the Kong family, this was definitely a huge sum of money. Of course it's possible. That girl is full of bullshit. She might say that she doesn't like it anymore and wants to go back on her word. Xiaolong had thought of this. So, we need to hurry. I'll go to the backstage and do the paperwork. We'll sell the box to Fatty Lie in front of everyone. I don't believe that he'll be so embarrassed as to not buy it. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng nodded in agreement. Xiaolong's idea wasn't bad. In fact, when Xiaolong brought the box to Fatty Lie looked like he was in pain. He stared at the box in Xiaolong's hands, hesitating to take out the check. Mr. Lai, I've brought the box. Please take a look. Xiaolong wasn't in a hurry. He held the box with a confident look. This box is really pretty. It's a good makeup box. Isn't it a little too expensive? Xiao Xiao curled her lips. Hey, Xiaolong bro, we've eaten together before. Can't you give it to me? Chapter 531. Pay back money without paying, then. Make it cheaper. Xiao Xiao said disinterestedly, seeing that she couldn't get Xiaolong to agree. I'll lose half of the money and sell it to you. Isn't that cheap? Xiaolong smiled. I spent more than 100 million on it. Didn't you want to buy that snow lotus? That's just an accessory. Xiao Xiao humphed. 10 million. If it's okay, I'll let him buy it. If it's not okay, then I don't want it. I'm a young girl, what's wrong with going back on my word? Xiao Xiao's words were a little shameless, but she also pointed out that she was a girl and a young girl. Even if she acted shamelessly, Xiaolong couldn't do anything to her. Xiaolong sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard that. He had underestimated Xiao Xiao. He was sure that Fatty Lai wouldn't go back on his word for the sake of his reputation, but he didn't expect Xiao Xiao to go back on her word. And if Xiao Xiao went back on her word, no one would be able to say anything. She said she didn't like it and didn't want it anymore, so naturally, Fatty Lai wouldn't buy it anymore. Everything was caused by Xiao Xiao, so why would Fatty Lai buy it if she didn't want it anymore? It didn't matter if he lost face or not anymore. Xiaolong frowned. This was a little troublesome. Things were out of his expectations. Xiao Xiao really wouldn't give him money so easily, 10 million. Isn't that too little? What if it's not even enough? Xiaolong naturally couldn't insist on 50 million. If he did, there would be no room for discussion. She wouldn't want it anymore. But he couldn't accept the 10 million that Xiao Xiao said. You guys want face and less money at the same time. How could there be such a good deal? Alright, 20 million is the most I'll give you. I'll remember this. Fatty Lai said faintly. Don't think that you're very smart. We'll see. Deal. Xiaolong heard Fatty Lai's tone and knew that he couldn't persist anymore. She had already gone back on her word. However, it was better than nothing. To him, it was already very good to be able to sell it for 20 million. What else could he ask for? After Xiaolong left, Fatty Lai admired Xiao Xiao from the bottom of his heart. Wasn't he too good at playing dirty? Xiaolong must be really unlucky to have met her. I didn't know you had so many tricks up your sleeves. Lin Yi couldn't help but admire Xiao Xiao for cutting another 30 million in the blink of an eye. That's right. Now you know the consequences of messing with me. Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi, pleased with herself. Let's see if you still dare mess with me. Ha! Lin Yi shrugged, not answering Xiao Xiao's question. Xiaolong returned to his seat with the 20 million check. He didn't get the 50 million he expected, but even so, Dr. Kong and Kong Gui Feng were very happy. If they were to do it, it would be a problem if they could get the Millennium Snow Lotus, not to mention a broken box that could be sold for 20 million yuan. Although the fight for the 1,000-year Snow Lotus had attracted a lot of attention, it came and went quickly. Soon, the auction was coming to an end. During this period, the Kong family's golden creation medicine, which was a must-have item in the auction every year, was also successfully sold out. There were no accidents. And before the auction ended, the most exciting moment for House Kong had arrived. The auctioneer cleared his throat and said loudly to the crowd, "Today, other than the items on the list, we will add another mysterious item as the finale of today's auction." Whoa! Everyone's attention was drawn to the auctioneer. It was not uncommon to add an item at the last minute. It had happened in the past, but it was rare to see an item appear last and be called the finale of the auction. Everyone's eyes widened as they wanted to see what the auctioneer was talking about. The last mysterious item is the newest product brought by Dr. Kang's medical company, Skin Beautifying Golden Creation. The auctioneer announced the name of the item and continued, "There are only 2 of these mysterious items. And it's a pre-sale item. The delivery time is 2 months later. Skin Beautifying Golden Creation. What the hell is this thing? Is it also a type of golden creation?" The most surprising thing was that there were only 2 of these items, and they were pre-sale items. There was no stock. What kind of high-end medicine was that? The auctioneer was very satisfied with the atmosphere at the scene. Seeing that everyone was discussing and guessing, it meant that this item had the possibility of being sold at a sky-high price. So, he wasn't in a hurry to continue the introduction. Instead, he waited for everyone to finish the discussion before he introduced, "This skin beautifying golden creation," as the name suggests. After the auctioneer explained the effects of the skin-beautifying golden creation, the crowd was in an uproar. This kind of medicine that could repair skin scars didn't exist in the world, but the effect wasn't as magical as the auctioneer said. Not only did it not leave any scars, but it could also improve the skin. It sounded like a lie, but those who had used Dr. Kang's golden creation knew that it wasn't a lie. When the men heard the news, they were a little better. However, the women around them were a little crazy. When they heard that there was such a magical thing, how could it be? A rich businessman's wife who came to participate in the auction said to her husband, "The scar from my C-section is still there. It's so ugly. You must buy me a bottle." This rich businessman was a henpecked man. When he heard his wife speak, he nodded repeatedly. Buy? How could he not buy? Besides, wouldn't it be more comfortable to look at after it was cured? Therefore, the rich businessman rubbed his hands together. He had a lot of wealth in his hands, so he was determined to get it. The other rich businessmen also had the same experience. The madams and ladies of the big families were also eager to show off their skills. As for the men, they weren't that interested. How many men cared about scars on their bodies? They weren't going to be models. The starting price of the skin-beautifying golden creation is 1 million yuan. Each bid increase must be no less than 500,000 yuan. The auctioneer was very satisfied with the effect of the scene. He didn't know that the same medicine would be auctioned tomorrow. He thought that today's medicine was a limited edition, so he was prepared to sell it for a super high price. 1,500,000. Someone began to bid. 2 million. The person who bid gave the first person a look of disdain. How can you increase the price like this? Such a good thing, and I asked you to increase it by 500,000 just like that. 3 million. Someone immediately overtook the second person who bid. Soon, the price soared to 5 million. Chapter 532. Chapter 532, You're Not Sick. One of them was from House Kong. Dr. Kong was smiling as he enjoyed this moment of accomplishment. Kong Guifeng and Kong Xiaolong were the same. The other was from House Yu. House Yu looked at the bustling auction with cold eyes. Anyone who made a deal today would regret it tomorrow. They didn't want the stock, but they bought a pre-sale item. However, House Yu couldn't say it out loud. Fatty Lai and Guan Shuamin were the most confused. Fatty Lai didn't expect Miracle Dr. Kong to come up with a golden creation as well. Boss, don't tell me House Kong found out about our plan. Why did they come up with an auction like this? Did someone from House Yu leak our information? That won't happen. Lin Yi smiled faintly. I know which recipe they have. Oh. Boss, you know their recipe. Fatty Lai was surprised. Then, our recipe is different from theirs. It's different. Theirs is very expensive. It's filled with expensive herbs. Mine is very ordinary. Lin Yi smiled. The reason why they want to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus is probably to make this skin-beautifying golden creation. The Millennium Snow Lotus is an essential ingredient for this. I see. No wonder they want it even if it's 100 million. Fatty Lai nodded in realization. If I knew this, I would have bid higher just now. I'll kill them. Didn't we kill them already? Lin Yi looked at the wooden box in his hand and smiled faintly. 20 million. It's worth it. From the appearance of the wooden box, it was indeed made of Wanyankan wood. However, Lin Yi didn't know what it was used for and how to use it. He had only read about it in an ancient medical book. He only took a glance at it and didn't read it in detail. Hence, he didn't remember much about it. Praise me. I'm the one who played with it. Xiao Xiao suddenly interrupted. Ha, I'll give you a bottle of our special edition injury medicine later. It's about the same as his. Lin Yi couldn't just leave it at that. After all, Xiao Xiao played a huge role in getting the Wanyankan box. Boring, I'm not going to remove scars. Xiao Xiao did have scars on her body, but as far as she was concerned, that wasn't important. She was about to die, so why would she care about stuff like that? If he had the time, he might as well do something else. Xiao Xiao's curiosity was piqued. Lin Yi, what did you mean? Fatty Lie's recipe was given by you. Lin Yi heard Xiao Xiao's words and knew that he had spilled the beans. Xiao Xiao's presence was a hindrance, and it was hard to communicate with Fatty Lie. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao and said faintly. Then you want me to be your girlfriend? That way, you won't have to worry about me leaking the secret. Feng Xiao Xiao giggled. She had something on Lin Yi. She couldn't help but feel proud. Okay, tell me. Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly. Although Lin Yi wasn't involved in the medicine company, many people knew that Lin Yi was the mastermind behind the scenes, so he wasn't afraid of Xiao Xiao finding out. You! Xiao Xiao was furious. Fine, I won't tell you. Tell me, do you know medicine? A little. Lin Yi didn't hide it anymore. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing from yesterday, can you give me one? Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi expectantly. Xiao Xiao had given up on her illness, but who would want to die? She'd heard the auctioneer talk about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing yesterday, and how it could cleanse one's bones and marrow. It was a miracle pill, and she wondered if it could improve her constitution. No. Lin Yi shrugged. What do you want? I'll eat it. Xiao Xiao said. You're not sick, you don't need to eat it. Lin Yi waved his hand. I'm not sick. How do you know I'm not sick? Xiao Xiao blinked. I've checked. Lin Yi said. But I don't see anything wrong with you. If there's a problem, eating it won't help. Oh. Xiao Xiao was a little disappointed, but Lin Yi was right, there was nothing wrong with her body no matter which hospital she went to. If Lin Yi really did notice something was wrong, then he'd be a god. You didn't have any signs of life in you before. Lin Yi frowned, but shook his head. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. It's a little weird, it's the first time I've met someone like you. Xiao Xiao blinked. She didn't think that Lin Yi would actually notice something was wrong with her body. But what was life? Xiao Xiao really didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. Then would you believe me if I said I'm going to die? Xiao Xiao asked after some hesitation. You won't die. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao. You're still normal for now. Oh. Xiao Xiao didn't continue. She told Lin Yi about her situation because she wanted to see if Lin Yi had a solution, but she didn't want Lin Yi to pity her. In the auction, the price of the skin beautifying golden creation skyrocketed. It was already sold for 10 million. Dr. Kong couldn't stop smiling. He didn't expect this thing to be this valuable. The cost was reduced even more. The first skin beautifying golden creation was sold to a wealthy businessman at the price of 11 million. The noble houses didn't rush to make a move. They understood that since this medicine belonged to House Kong, they would definitely prepare it for them. They knew what House Kong was thinking. If they wanted to become a noble house, they needed to show some sincerity. So they didn't participate, but they still paid attention to it. The second pre-sale item was also sold for 11,500,000. The buyer was also a rich businessman. This was what House Kong wanted to see. They didn't want the noble houses to make a move now. If that happened, their plan wouldn't be able to go smoothly. He wanted to meet with the people in charge of the noble houses after the auction, and give each of them a skin-beautifying golden creation. Now that these people had benefited from him, he believed that they would definitely support him during the clan assembly. The second day of the auction ended smoothly. With Haitian's help, Dr. Kong met with the people in charge of the 4 noble houses and 5 small noble houses. Chapter 533. Chapter 533, House Yu's attitude. Hearing that House Kong had something to say, the people in charge of the houses all stayed behind. Most of them understood what House Kong was doing. It had to have something to do with the skin-beautifying golden creation. In one of the meeting rooms of House Yu's auction house, Yu Haitian received the heads of the houses. Wu Gonggao, the head of House Wu, was absent, and Wu Qintian was the representative. Xiao family, on the other hand, sent out their second son, Xiao Ben. Shuixing didn't show up either, which surprised House Kong. After all, Yu Shuixing was the one in charge of House Yu's external affairs, and Haitian was only the person in charge of House Yu's external businesses. In the morning, although Shuixing wasn't there, Dr. Kong wasn't an idiot. He had already guessed that Shuixing was controlling Haitian from behind. He thought that after throwing out enough chips, he would be able to see Shuixing at night. But Shuixing did have the right to put on airs, and Dr. Kong didn't think too much about it. Plus, this unexpected thought was fleeting. Very quickly, Dr. Kong was overwhelmed by the joy and hope of becoming a noble house. Dr. Kong's second uncle has something to do tonight, so he won't be coming. He asked me to represent him, Haitian said faintly as he looked at Dr. Kong. His tone wasn't as warm as it was in the morning. But miracle Dr. Kong didn't mind. He thought that Haitian was doing this on purpose for others to see. After all, House Yu was the organizer of this event, and they couldn't just stand behind the other houses. That would cause a huge chain reaction. It's okay, Mr. Yu is busy, so he doesn't have to participate. Hearing Haitian's explanation, Dr. Kong thought that Haitian was giving him face, and he was even happier. Old Kong, why did you call us here? The one who spoke was the head of House Song, Song Xiangwen. House Song was one of the 4 great worlds, an ancient martial arts house. There was a mystic class master in the house, and he was the younger brother of the head, Song Xiangwen. But because he had no hope of breaking through, he went out to train, and had yet to return. Otherwise, House Song wouldn't be any less famous than House Wu. But even so, Song Xiangwen's words were still very firm, and this had something to do with his strength at the peak late phase of the golden class. I've called all of you here because I have a piece of good news to announce. Dr. Kong stood up and nodded at the representatives of each family. Then, he continued, after many years of dedicated research, our Kong family has finally made a breakthrough and developed the skin-beautifying golden creation. I won't go into too much detail about the effects of this medicine. It's just that it's still in the research phase and can't be mass-produced, so we've only produced a small batch. Apart from the 2 batches that will be auctioned off, we're prepared to give the rest to the aristocratic families first. Song Xiangwen nodded with satisfaction after listening. Your approach is very good. Don't let the goodies flow to the outsiders. Song Xiangwen was old but strong. After his first wife died, he remarried. Just now, his second wife was urging him to snatch the 2 skin-beautifying golden creation medicine. Song Xiangwen was a sly old fox. Naturally, he would not do such a stupid thing. As a matter of fact, as soon as the auction ended, someone came knocking on his door. All the aristocratic families have a share, and the price is very good as well. It's only 5 million per bottle. Dr. Kong saw everyone's expression and knew that his plan worked. These people seemed to have a good impression of him. 5 million, not expensive. Song Xiangwen nodded. Other than Xiao Ben, the other aristocratic families here didn't care about 5 million. They only cared about their face. As long as it was cheaper than the auction price, it would be giving them face. Plus, it was half the price. I've prepared a total of 20 bottles. Apart from the 2 that were sold in the auction, there are 18 bottles left. There are 9 aristocratic families here, and each house can get 2 bottles. Dr. Kong smiled. But if any house doesn't want it, you can give it to someone else. Who wouldn't want something like this? Only an idiot. But there really was an idiot. But was the person who appeared really an idiot? House you doesn't want it. If any of you want it, you can take it. Yu Haitian's brainless words made the atmosphere turn cold. Even Dr. Kang's expression froze. He didn't know what Yu Haitian meant by this. Yu Haitian saw everyone's expression and smiled faintly. As the host of the auction, House Yuk shouldn't fight with everyone. I was scolded by my second uncle yesterday, naturally, Yu Haitian wouldn't say that the same thing would appear tomorrow, and the price was only 1 million. House Yuk naturally didn't want to increase the number of aristocratic houses, even if they were weaker than the 5 small aristocratic houses. They took advantage of them. If that was the case, House Yu naturally wouldn't give House Kong anything to talk about. When everyone heard Yu Haitian's words, they immediately understood. So that was the case. Hence, the remaining 2 bottles of skin beautifying golden creation were snatched away by the other aristocratic families. Although Dr. Kong didn't have anything to do with the promotion, he believed that everyone here knew what House Kong was thinking. Now that they were benefiting from House Kong, even if they didn't support it, they wouldn't cause trouble for House Kong. So with this, House Kang's promotion to a noble house was a done deal under House Yu's leadership, as long as there were no accidents. Walking out of the auction hall, Dr. Kang's face was filled with excitement and relief. Based on my dragon grandson's performance this time, you have made a great contribution. Dr. Kong looked at Zhao Long, getting happier and happier. He felt that under his leadership, House Kong would definitely prosper. Kong Guifeng was happy as well. His son's performance was good, and the position of the head of the house was basically set. Even if the old man passed away one day, Cui Pu wouldn't be able to compete with him. Xiaolong was already the 3rd head of the house. What else could Cui Pu fight for? Grandpa, you're flattering me. I'm just doing my duty. I'm also a member of House Kong. Naturally, I want the best for House Kong, Xiaolong said humbly. Yes, we're all doing this for House Kong. Dr. Kong nodded. This time, there shouldn't be any accidents with House Kong becoming a noble house. Grandpa, why do I feel that Yu Haitian's attitude is a little weird tonight? Xiaolong frowned. He felt that Yu Haitian's attitude wasn't right, but he couldn't tell what it was. Weird? House Yu won't openly support us in front of other people. They have to put on an act for others to see. Miracle Dr. Kong was so excited that he couldn't listen to anything else. Chapter 534. Phew, Lin Yi laid on the bed in the hotel room and let out a long breath. He thought that he would be able to face House Yu calmly. In fact, Lin Yi tried his best to stay calm. But after he calmed down, he couldn't help but think of that beautiful face and her sad eyes. Ning, are you okay? Lin Yi shook his head in self-mockery. It was all in the past. Why was he still holding a grudge against her? Did he leave because he thought that his identity was not good enough for her? Or was it because he couldn't give her a stable life? Or was it because he was young and didn't want to be restrained by love and family? Or was it because he found out about her secret and chose to escape? Lin Yi didn't know. He couldn't explain it either. His state of mind then was completely different from his current state of mind. Back then, he was nervous all the time. But now, he was relaxed. Lin Yi got up from the bed and went to the bathroom. He turned on the shower and walked in. He felt much more refreshed. He silently channeled the art of dragon mastery. Golden class mid-phase made Lin Yi smile. Last night, he recovered to golden class mid-phase. The speed was fast. But this wasn't something to be happy about. The closer he got to his original strength, the slower the progress. In fact, Lin Yi recovered to golden class mid-phase in the first half of the night. There was no progress in the second half. After taking a shower, Lin Yi dried his hair and looked at his phone. There were 2 missed calls. He thought that it was Tang Yin, but it wasn't. One was Xiao Xiao, and the other was Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi called Kong Xiaobo first. Kong Xiaobo picked up quickly. "Boss, why didn't you pick up?" "I took a shower." "What's the matter?" Lin Yi asked. "Boss, did you get into an argument with sis-in-law Tang Yin?" Kong Xiaobo asked. "No, why?" Lin Yi paused. "It shouldn't be an argument, right? He just stood her up. Tang Yin wouldn't be that petty, right? I saw sis-in-law Tang Yin's eyes were red as if she cried the whole night." Kong Xiaobo said. "Did something happen to her family?" "Her family?" Lin Yi paused, thinking that it was possible. Maybe Tang Yun's family was in trouble, and he didn't know Mr. and Mrs. Tang's phone numbers, so he didn't know how to contact Tang Yun. This lass even turned off her phone. It was really worrying. So he said, "Help me ask her or Lu Xinwen tomorrow, and then give me a call back." Since Tang Yin could still go to school, it shouldn't be a big problem. But Kong Xiaobo said that Tang Yin cried the whole night. Her eyes were red, and it made Lin Yi's heart ache. He wasn't someone who was good at expressing his emotions. Other than training, he was on missions. The only family he had was his master and his old man, but they were very strict. "Okay, I'll ask now." "I have Lu Xinwen's number," Kong Xiaobo agreed. After hanging up the call with Kong Xiaobo, Lin Yi called Xiao Xiao back. "What's up? I helped you so much today. Aren't you going to thank me?" Xiao Xiao giggled. "I'm busy. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up." Lin Yi was waiting for Kong Xiaobo's call. He didn't want to waste time with Xiao Xiao. "Hey! What do you mean?" He doesn't want it anymore after using it. Xiao Xiao was panicking, accusing Lin Yi of being unreasonable. "Use it. Throw it away." Lin Yi was speechless. Wasn't that a little too ambiguous? What did she mean by throw it away? It sounded like he did something to her. "Then how do you want to thank me?" Lin Yi could only ask. "Treat me to a feast. I want to eat good food." Xiao Xiao said. "I can't afford seafood." "Beef noodles, then." "You don't have to eat if you don't like it," Lin Yi said faintly. "Oh. Okay," Xiao Xiao nodded casually. "It doesn't matter what we eat. The important thing is who we eat with." Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't know what was wrong with Xiao Xiao's brain. She was either hinting at him or confessing. Lin Yi didn't believe that this girl would fall for him after teaching her a few lessons. Wasn't she a masochist? Not long after, Kong Xiaobo called back. "Boss, did you break up with Tang Yun? Why did Lu Xinwen say that you're ungrateful and don't want Tang Yun anymore?" "Wah." Lin Yi blinked. "Don't want Tang Yun anymore. Broke up. When did that happen?" "You don't know." Kong Xiaobo blinked as well. "I've been in Yanjing the whole time. How would I know?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Lu Xinwen didn't lie to you, right?" "I don't know." "Who knows what happened?" I called and Lu Xinwen started yelling at me. She told me to tell you that Tang Yun doesn't want to be with you. You don't want her anymore. There's a lot of people waiting in line for you. Xiaobo was quite troubled as well. It was a wasted call. I'll ask Fan what's going on tomorrow. Alright, help me ask her tomorrow. Lin Yi frowned. Was there some misunderstanding? Tang Yun wasn't that petty. She thought that he didn't want her anymore just because he stood her up once, right? Less than a minute after he hung up on Kong Xiaobo, Xiao Xiao called again. Lin Yi, why did you hang up on me? Is this how you treat pretty girls? Xiao Xiao was really pissed. Why? What right did Lin Yi have to ignore her? She wanted him to treat her to a meal, but he didn't even want to. It was as if she really wanted that meal. Is Uncle Feng back yet? Lin Yi didn't linger on the topic of Xiao Xiao. If he did, there'd be no end to it. He just changed the topic. This was something he learned from Yushu. No. What, you're in a hurry to see your father-in-law? Xiao Xiao teased. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to bring the topic back with just one sentence. He couldn't help but admire Xiao Xiao. This girl was quite a match for Yushu. One acted dumb, and the other acted like an oddball. Neither of them were easy to deal with. Then call me when Uncle Feng comes back. I'm going to sleep. Lin Yi was about to hang up. Hey, wait. When are you going to treat me to beef noodles? I want a big bowl with meat. Xiao Xiao said. Chapter 535. Master Bing is here, then you can't go back on your word. Xiao Xiao reminded. I won't. Lin Yi said helplessly. Alright, I'll let you go for now. Xiao Xiao hung up the phone, satisfied. She waved her fist excitedly. Yay! I'll make you treat me to beef noodles when we get back to school. I'll piss Tang Yin off. Songshan, Starlight Hotel, in the top private room. Sihua stood beside a young man and filled up the wine glass in front of him. Master Bing, do you have any new instructions from the boss? Oh, my dad didn't say anything. He just wanted you to cooperate with me. Qibing waved his hand nonchalantly, as if he didn't put Sihua in his eyes at all, this big boss of the underworld who could shake the entire Songshan city with a single stomp. However, Sihua wasn't annoyed. He understood his position. In the eyes of the boss, he was just a dog. Although Qibing was his illegitimate son, he was still the young master. What good would it do to him if he didn't serve him well? Of course, I'll do whatever you say, Master Bing. Sihua said respectfully. How's the real estate company I want? I heard that it's very profitable. Have you settled the company yet? Qibing asked bluntly. It's done. All the procedures are ready. I've already informed Jin Gubang. He'll be here soon. Sihua said quickly. We're just waiting for you to give the company a name. Jin Gubang. Is he the chairman of Pingzhan Industries? Qibing clearly had an impression of Jin Gubang's name. He lost to that old fox Pingzhan and got kicked out of the company. Sihua said. But it doesn't matter. It won't affect your company. Jin Gubang invested his own money to open a real estate company for you. Oh, at least he's smart. Sihua nodded in satisfaction. Since he's the investor, I'll give him 20% of the shares later. He'll be the general manager and help me manage the company. Jin Gubang will be grateful if he knows about it. He'll work for you with all his heart. Sihua said respectfully. There was a knock on the door just as they were talking. Who is it? Sihua asked. It's me, Jin Gubang. Gubang's voice sounded from outside. Come in. Sihua said faintly. Gubong pushed the door open and saw Zihua standing respectfully beside a young man. He paused for a moment before remembering that this was the legendary Master Bing. "Master Bing, Zihua bro," he said with a flattering smile. "You're Jean Gubong. Sit, tell me about the real estate company." Master Bing nodded and pointed at the seat across from him. "Thank you, Master Bing." Gubong's heart was bleeding, but there was nothing he could do. His previous actions were a double loss. Not only did he lose his position as the chairman of Pingzhan Industries, but he was also kicked out of the company. Now, all his assets were used to set up a real estate company. After he walked out of the room, he was penniless. "Zihua, tell him what I said just now. Let him know what's going on," Qi Bing ordered. Zihua nodded. "Old Jean, Master Bing is a good master. He won't mistreat loyal subordinates like us." "Yes. Yes," Gubong replied, smiling bitterly in his heart. "That's for you, he won't mistreat you. You tricked a real estate company from me as a gift. Wouldn't he reward you if he was happy? What about me? I'll have nothing if I give you the real estate company. Master Bing said that you're the one who invested in this company, so he's going to reward you with 20% of the shares and hire you as the general manager. You'll be working for Master Bing in the future. Do you have any objections?" Zihua asked. Gubong paused. Giving him shares. Making him the general manager. Wasn't this a good thing? Although it was a bit too much to reward him with the shares of the company he started with his own money, the situation was pressing. Gubong was already surprised that Master Bing would treat him like this. Plus, he was kicked out of Pingzhan Industries, and the relationship he had with Pingzhan Industries wasn't working anymore. He didn't have any funds in his hands, and it was basically impossible for him to make a comeback. Qi Bing, on the other hand, was giving him a chance, and Gubong was pleasantly surprised. Besides, working under Zhao Qibing was very beneficial as well. With such a strong backing, the company would definitely be able to prosper. At the very least, Zihua was on his side now. Everyone was working for Master Bing, and his position would rise as well. He'd settle the score with Pengzhan then. "Master Bing, you're too good to me. I, Gubong, don't know how to talk, but I'll do my best to live up to your expectations. I'll do anything for you." Gubong clenched his fists, feeling that his life was full of hope again. "All right, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want to use my power to expand the company and get revenge on Pingzhan," Qi Bing said faintly. Master Bing, I didn't mean it that way." Gubong was startled. He thought that Master Bing was just a spoiled brat, but he didn't expect him to have such sharp observation skills. He'd seen through his intentions in such a short amount of time. "You know better than anyone else whether you have it or not." Qi Bing curled his lips. "But you don't have to be afraid. I like my men to be ambitious, and I'm happy to see you use the power I give you to get rid of your enemies. But what I want is your loyalty. As long as you're loyal to me, I'll give you what you want." "Yes. Don't worry, Master Bing, I'll do what you ask of me." Gubong clenched his teeth. "I'm your dog, Master Bing, I'll bite whoever you want me to bite." Although it sounded like he was insulting himself, Gubong had thought it through. It wasn't easy for him to find a backer like this, and whether or not he could prosper in the future depended on Qi Bing. Qi Bing nodded, satisfied. "All right, since we're on the same side, there's no need to be so polite. Eat and drink, and we'll discuss the company's development." Chapter 536. Pin Liang on the move, you don't have to be so nervous. Don't you want Pingzhan's company? Qi Bing smiled nonchalantly. "I want to do it too." "Ah." Gubong paused, not understanding what Qi Bing meant. Pingzhan's daughter is quite pretty. I've been wanting to play with her for a long time, but I never had the chance. I can't do anything before Pingzhan loses his power. Qibing chuckled. I don't mind playing with his daughter after you destroy his company. Oh, okay. Master Bing, don't worry. Under your leadership, I'll destroy him sooner or later. Gubong patted his chest confidently. Alright, let's put this aside for now. Tell me, how can our real estate company make money? Zhao Qibing didn't lack money. His company was purely for fun, but it wasn't completely for fun. He also wanted to make some achievements. Although he was an illegitimate child, Qibing still wanted to be recognized for his ability and return to his family. Right now, the slums are one of the better places in Songshan, and if we can get the development rights there, our company would be able to make a name for itself. Gubong said. That's what I suggested to Tsihua Bro. Tsihua Bro nodded. That's what I suggested. Oh. If you say it's so good, then why hasn't anyone developed this area yet? Qibing wasn't an idiot. He asked immediately after hearing Gubong's words. Unruly people. There are too many unruly people. Gubong explained. Pingzhan Industries wanted to develop this area too, but the people in the slums banded together and demanded a high demolition fee. It wasn't worth it at all. Pingzhan is also a stubborn person, refusing to pay for quality. Naturally, there wasn't much profit to be made. The other developers are probably the same. Oh. Then we'll get profits from it. Qibing asked. With Tsihua Bro around, we can't deal with those unruly people. We'll kill them if they try to extort us. Gubong curled his lips. Then pay for the quality of the project. The quality of the houses doesn't need to be too good, just scan them, don't let others talk about the quality of the house. I heard that the country has a new policy. The developer will be responsible for the quality of the house for life. This will hurt the foundation if there is trouble in the future. Zhao Qibing waved his hand. As for those relocated households, it doesn't matter. Let's look for benefits from them. No problem. Gubong was getting more and more convinced that Master Bin wasn't an idiot at all. On the contrary, he was quite thoughtful, not the type to act recklessly. He knew what he could and couldn't do. Let's go to the slums when we're free these few days, Qibing said. We need to get the development paperwork done as soon as possible. That's easy. The city has long wanted to renovate that piece of land. It's just that no developer has taken over. I'll go and settle the paperwork tomorrow. Gubong said casually, right, Master Bin, what do you think the company's name is? Name? Let's call it Qibing Real Estate, Qibing said casually. Pin Liang had been in an unusually good mood these past 2 days. He felt that his luck had finally turned for the better. The person he hated the most, Lin Yi, hadn't come to school for a few days. Without Lin Yi messing around, he could carry out his plan smoothly. Xiaofu, how's your preparation? Pin Liang asked Xiaofu. Liang bro, I've found the cave. It's absolutely safe. Xiaofu chuckled, I've installed a security door inside. No matter how strong Meng Yao is, she won't be able to escape. Not bad. Your idea is very creative. It's much better than normal robbers. You're a natural-born villain. Pin Liang laughed upon hearing Xiaofu's idea. Heh, isn't it all thanks to you, Liang bro? I wouldn't have thought of such a good idea otherwise. Xiaofu was very pleased. Pin Liang said that he would tie Meng Yao up in the cave, but Xiaofu was afraid that something would happen to Meng Yao after Pin Liang left. What if there were wild beasts in the wilderness? And so, Xiaofu installed a security door. Now, no one would be able to open it without a key. There's food and toys inside, right? Pin Liang asked. Of course, I've prepared everything. Xiaofu nodded. The rest is up to you, Liang bro. See how you can trick Meng Yao. That's up to me, I've thought about it long ago. Pinliang said confidently, I know Meng Yao pretty well. I can handle this myself. Pinliang walked up to Meng Yao and Yushu's table and whispered, Yao Yao, I have something very important to ask you. Meng Yao raised her head and frowned. I told you not to call me Yao Yao, call me Yao Yao sis or my full name. Why is your memory so bad? Yeah, Yao Yao sis, I think little Liang should eat some pills to nourish himself. Yushu nodded. Pinliang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he said seriously, all right, I'll call you Meng Yao then. I really have something to talk to you about. These names don't matter. What is it? Meng Yao asked impatiently. She was just about to go buy some snacks with Shu when Pinliang suddenly appeared beside their seat. She didn't know what he wanted. Shu, do you want to leave for a bit? Pinliang asked carefully. Oh. Yushu paused. Pinliang never asked her to leave whenever he was chasing Meng Yao. He would even ask her to stay and help him. What did he want today? Ahem. Today's business is a bit secretive. It might involve Meng Yao's privacy, so... Pinliang said in a roundabout way. Pinliang, if you have something to say, just say it. If not, Shu and I will go shopping. Meng Yao's patience was at an end. Shu is my best friend, I don't want to hide anything from her. Alright then. I'll say it. Pinliang actually didn't want Yushu to get involved, because of her identity. Pinliang couldn't help but be wary of her. Do you have something to say or not? Meng Yao glared at Pinliang. Yes. Meng Yao, you're an only child, right? Pinliang asked carefully. Only child. Meng Yao paused. What do you mean? Ugh. In other words, you're Uncle Chu's only child, right? Pinliang explained. Chapter 537. Chapter 537, Someone similar to you, oh, Yao Yao sis, I got it. Yushu spoke up suddenly. Liangzi realized that he couldn't get you, so he turned his attention to your sister. Meng Yao was taken aback by Yushu's words. Was that really what Pinliang meant? So, he looked at Pinliang, confused. Pinliang was stunned by Yushu's words. He didn't think that Yushu would be able to come up with such an excuse. He coughed dryly and explained, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, did he find out that Shield Bro is Uncle Chu's illegitimate son? Yushu asked curiously. Shu! Don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao's heart tightened when she heard Yushu mention Shield Bro. She glared at her. How could she let Pinliang know about this? Yushu stuck her tongue out. I'm just joking, Shield Bro. What's that? Pinliang was confused. What were these two girls talking about? Nothing, just say it. Meng Yao clearly didn't want to explain. Pinliang didn't want to talk anymore. Who cared about Shield Bro? He needed to focus on his own matters first. He said, what I mean is, Meng Yao, do you have any sisters or anything like that? Sisters. Meng Yao blinked. What sisters? My sister is Yushu. I'm not talking about sisters, I'm talking about Uncle Chu. Do you have any other daughters? Pinliang asked carefully. Other daughters? Pinliang, what are you trying to say? Why are you stuttering? Can't you just say it all at once? Meng Yao was a little angry. What was this guy trying to say? Was he trying to say that her father had an illegitimate son or daughter outside? Hey, Meng Yao, I might have seen wrongly. It's fine, it's fine. Pinliang waved his hand and was about to leave when he added, how can there be such similar people in this world? Meng Yao wasn't interested in Pin Liang's words at first. She didn't want to call him back, but the second half of his sentence caught her by surprise. Pin Liang, what do you mean by like? She called out. Pin Liang, what do you mean? Is there anyone like me? That's right. Last night, I went to the Shuangyan Mountain Resort with my father. When I was climbing the mountain, I saw a woman who looked very similar to you. I should say, you're practically carved from the same mold. I thought it was you, so I called out your name. Pin Liang said, pleased that he'd gotten Meng Yao's attention. The woman's body shook, and she turned around to look at me before leaving in a hurry. What? Does he really look like me? Meng Yao's breathing quickened as she stared fixedly at Pin Liang. Yeah, but I took a closer look at her after she turned around. She's a little older than you. Pin Liang shook his head. I thought she was your sister or something. Why would she turn around if I called Meng Yao? Then did she say anything? Meng Yao asked, panicking. She didn't say anything. She glanced at me and left quickly. Pin Liang shook his head. I was curious, so I followed, but I lost track of them. Oh. Meng Yao gasped, her eyes staring blankly at something. She stood beside her seat, deep in thought. Mom. It must be her mom. A voice called out in Meng Yao's heart, making her heart beat faster. How could there be someone so similar in this world? So, that person must be her mom. Meng Yao had seen her mom's photo when she was young, and she looked exactly like her. In fact, she hadn't inherited Peng Zhan's genes in terms of looks. She'd inherited her mom's excellent looks. So, when Pin Liang mentioned this person, Meng Yao's first thought was that he'd seen her mom. Pin Liang knew that his plan had worked when he saw Meng Yao's expression. He'd been chasing Meng Yao for 3 years. How could he not know about Meng Yao's family background? He knew that Meng Yao's mother had a conflict with Peng Zhan when Meng Yao was young, and she left home. He hadn't heard from her all these years. It was impossible to say that Meng Yao didn't miss her mom. Pin Liang had grasped Meng Yao's psychological weakness, baiting her step by step. Now, it seemed like he'd succeeded halfway. Since you don't have a sister, then I must be mistaken. Forget it, pretend I didn't say anything. Pin Liang shook his head and walked out of the classroom, counting silently as he walked. 1, 2, 3, wait. Pin Liang heard Meng Yao's voice from behind. Pin Liang's lips curled into a smile. He didn't believe that Meng Yao wouldn't take the bait. Meng Yao, is there anything else? Pin Liang turned around, a fawning look on his face. Are you going to give me a chance to chase you? Stop it. Meng Yao frowned. I won't talk to you anymore if you keep this up. No, I'll talk nicely then. Meng Yao, why are you looking for me? Pin Liang said that on purpose. His goal was to make Meng Yao think that he didn't care about the girl who looked like him anymore. Instead, he cared about how to chase her. That way, she wouldn't be suspicious. Let me ask you. Did you really see a girl who looked like me at Mount Shuangyan? Meng Yao asked. Yeah, but she's older than you. Naturally, I won't be interested. Pin Liang said confidently. Meng Yao, don't worry. You're irreplaceable in my heart. She only looks like you. I won't fall in love with someone else. Who's asking you that? Meng Yao wasn't happy. Pin Liang, don't say useless things. I'm asking you, where did you see her? Where is it? That's hard to say. It's a big mountain, I might be able to find it if I go. It's hard to explain. Pin Liang scratched his head, troubled. Bring me there. Meng Yao couldn't care less. She missed her mother for so many years. At this moment, she couldn't care less about going to school. She didn't think about whether Pinliang was telling the truth or not. She only had one thought in her mind. That was to see her mother as soon as possible. Ah. Now. It's pretty late, and school hasn't ended yet. Pinliang said awkwardly. Why don't we find a place to eat first? We'll talk about the mountain later. Chapter 538. Chapter 538, Destroying Family Harmony. Sigh, since you've said so, how can I not? Pinliang seemed disappointed, but the more he acted like this, the less suspicious Meng Yao was. Then let's go. Meng Yao was anxious, afraid that her mother would go somewhere else if she was late. All these years, Meng Yao had been thinking about her mother all the time. She never said it out loud, but under her tough exterior, there was a deep longing for her mother. She was a 19-year-old girl after all. No matter how mature she pretended to be and how big sister she acted in front of Yushu, she still couldn't suppress her desire for family. Should she tell her father? Meng Yao shook her head. All these years, her father had never mentioned her mother in front of her. It was as if he had forgotten about her, focusing all his attention on the company. This made Meng Yao a little unhappy, but she couldn't do anything about it. After all, her father was equally important to her. She didn't know why her father and mother fought, and she didn't know why her mother left home for so many years. But Meng Yao thought that if she could see her mother first and persuade her to stay, her father wouldn't be a problem. She might even be able to give him a surprise. Thinking of this, Meng Yao decided to see her mother in private. She had completely believed Pinliang's words, treating that person as her mother. All right. Pinliang nodded helplessly and shouted to Xiaofu, come here. What's the matter, Liang bro? Xiaofu walked over, confused. He had to admit that his acting skills were quite good. It seemed like he had rehearsed many times. Come with me and Meng Yao to Mount Shuangyin. Pinliang ordered. Why are we going to Mount Shuangyin for? Xiaofu was surprised. Why are you asking so many questions? Are you coming? Pinliang obviously didn't want to explain. Oh, let's go. Xiaofu stopped asking. Meng Yao didn't think that it was inappropriate for Pinliang to bring Xiaofu out. He was Pinliang's henchman after all. It was normal for him to bring him out. Pinliang and Xiaofu walked in front while Meng Yao and Yushu walked behind. The four of them went down the stairs and walked out of the school gate. Sister Yao Yao, what's going on? Why do you want to go to Shuangyin Mountain? Also, who's that girl who looks like you? Yushu asked curiously as they walked. Don't ask so many questions, just follow them. Meng Yao couldn't explain it in a few words, and it was hard to tell if her mother was still there. Oh, but I don't think it's appropriate for us two girls to go to the wilderness with Pinliang. Should we tell Shield Bro? Yushu asked, seeing that it was getting late. Just admit it if you want to talk to Lin Yi, there's no need for all these excuses. Meng Yao said mercilessly, seeing through Yushu's thoughts. You miss him, don't you? Oh, I thought Yao Yao missed me. Yushu blinked. Should we call then? Suit yourself. Meng Yao humphed, but then she thought that Shu might be doing the right thing. She should tell Lin Yi about her whereabouts. What if she got into an accident in the middle of nowhere? Yushu did miss Lin Yi a little, but she couldn't explain why. She was just used to living with Lin Yi. She wasn't used to missing someone all of a sudden. Poor little wife, always acting as the big wife's mouthpiece. Yushu took out her phone and mumbled to herself. What did you say? Meng Yao almost tripped. What big wife, little wife? You're the big wife, I'm the little wife. Yushu wasn't afraid at all. You damn Shu, do you want to have your tongue pulled out? Who's Lin Yi's big wife? Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Oh. Yao Yao really likes Shield Bro. Yushu raised her hands in joy. I only said big wife and little wife, I didn't say Shield Bros. You. I'm so pissed. Meng Yao knew that she was tricked by Yushu. The girl had been leading her step by step, but she really didn't say who the big wife and little wife were. The big wife and little wife thing seemed to be something the two of them had agreed on before, and it didn't specifically say who the husband was. She'd been tricked. She'd been tricked. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Open your mouth. Yushu shook her head with a smile. Why? Meng Yao thought. Did this dumb girl learn to be smart? Did she know that she was going to tear her mouth off? I'm not dumb, opening my mouth and having my tongue pulled out. Yushu screamed before she could finish. Ah. No. It hurts. It hurts. Meng Yao took the opportunity to tear Yushu's mouth. A dumb girl is still a dumb girl. Only a silly girl will be liked by others. Yushu covered her mouth and mumbled. Yao Yao, you're too bad. You won't be loved in the future. What do you mean? Meng Yao asked. You bullied the little wife and ruined the harmony of the family. In ancient times, you'd be an unloved queen. Yushu said. You don't want your mouth anymore, do you? Meng Yao threatened. Oh. Yushu stopped talking and took out her phone to make a call, but Xiaofu was already in a taxi. She couldn't make the call. Meng Yao, Shu, get in. Pinliang waved at Meng Yao and Yushu after seeing that Xiaofu had flagged down a taxi. Xiaofu hailed a 7-seater Turan cab, and Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, sat in the third row since they were small. Pinliang, on the other hand, had no choice but to sit in the second row with Xiaofu. Pinliang was so pissed that he wanted to kick Xiaofu to death. Didn't you look carefully when you flagged down a taxi? You should have flagged down a 5-seater Jetta. What were you trying to do with a 7-seater car? Pinliang had wanted to sit with Meng Yao in the back seat. It was a 5-seater car, so there had to be 3 people in the back seat. He thought he could get intimate with Meng Yao, but it was all over now. But Meng Yao was sitting in the back seat, and Pinliang couldn't get angry. He could only hold it in. In the car, Yushu sent a message to Lin Yi, telling him that she and Yao Yao were going to Mount Shuangyan with Pinliang and Xiaofu. Chapter 539. The plan went smoothly. The car stopped at the foot of Mount Shuangyan. It was a rugged mountain road, so the taxi could only go there. Sir, you can only walk to the resort up there. My car can't go up there. It's a staircase. The taxi driver didn't know that Pinliang had never been to this place before, so he explained to them. I know. Pinliang paid the driver. Obviously, the driver thought that they were students who came to the resort. Now that the living conditions were better, it wasn't strange for young men and women to go to the resort together. So, the driver didn't suspect anything and left after taking the money. There's a resort up there. Meng Yao had never been here before. There was no need for her and Yushu to go to a resort. There was no point in going to a resort with so few people. Yes, I came to this resort with my dad last night. Pinliang said proudly. He really did come last night with his old man, and it was Zihua's treat, along with Jin Gubang and a young man called Master Bing. Zihua was the one who'd invited him. This gave Pinliang a lot of knowledge and made him bolder. With Pinliang's background, he was a little hesitant to make a move. The cave and the plan had been prepared long ago, but Pinliang couldn't do it because he was afraid of Pingzhan's background. But after what happened yesterday, Pinliang got to know Zihua and Master Bing. Master Bing was someone with a big background. Even Sihua was respectful to him, and Pingliang's father worked for Master Bing and Sihua. Would House Zhong have to worry about not being rich in the future? So, Pingliang couldn't wait to carry out his kidnapping plan today. Meng Yao nodded. She wasn't interested in the resort. She was focused on finding her mother. Pingliang, bring me to the person who looks like me. I can't say if I can find her or not. Pingliang said. Meng Yao, don't blame me if you can't find her. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up. Meng Yao said impatiently. Pingliang snickered inwardly, but maintained his composure as he led Meng Yao and Yushu up the mountain. The sky was already dark, but there were quite a lot of people at the foot of the mountain since the resort was located halfway up the mountain. This gave Meng Yao and Yushu a sense of security, even though they didn't know it. With so many people here, nothing would happen. If there wasn't a single person around, Meng Yao would be hesitant to follow Pingliang up the mountain. Although the mountain road was rugged, it was not shaky. The four of them were all young people, so it did not take much effort for them to reach the resort halfway up the mountain. Meng Yao, are you tired? Why don't we get something to eat at the resort first? Pingliang asked. Eat what? I'm not hungry. Take me there. Meng Yao wasn't in the mood to eat. Alright, let's go then. Pingliang nodded unwillingly and continued up the mountain road. If it were in the day, there would be a lot of people going up the mountain to take pictures and sightsee, but the sky was dark. Naturally, no one went up the mountain. In the blink of an eye, the crowd was gone, and only Pingliang, Xiaofu, Meng Yao, and Yushu were left on the small path. That person was here yesterday. Meng Yao was suspicious. Even if Pingliang met her mother, what was her mother doing here? Yeah, I followed her here from the resort. I thought it was you, but then I realized it wasn't. Pingliang nodded. What do you think she's doing here in the middle of the night? Pingliang's question dispelled Meng Yao's suspicions. She had to admit that Pingliang had some brains. He wasn't an idiot, and this plan was executed after careful planning. And so, Meng Yao didn't say anything else. She followed Pingliang up the mountain, and after a few hundred meters, Pingliang suddenly turned and walked towards a small fork in the road. There were no stone steps on the fork, and it was a dirt road. Meng Yao couldn't help but ask, why are you on a small road again? Chapter 540. A big discovery outside the cave. Meng Yao looked towards the direction of the cave anxiously. She didn't know how Pingliang and Gao Xiaofu were doing. Why wasn't there any movement? Shoo, why do I have a weird feeling? Meng Yao frowned. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. In short, Pingliang was acting weird today. I've always been curious. Yao Yao sis, why did you bring me here? It's not fun at all. Yushu scratched her head and frowned. Yao Yao sis, you're not thinking of having sex with Pingliang, are you? Shut up. How is that possible? Meng Yao hit Yushu fiercely. Do that with him. You might as well kill me. Oh. Then who do you want to do it with? Yushu asked. I want my ass. I don't want to. Meng Yao almost fell for Yushu's trick. She raged. Shu, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking of doing it? I'm just curious. I don't really want to do it. Yushu wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead, she was curious. Then you wait for Lin Yi to come back and try it with him. Meng Yao said angrily. What about you? Yushu asked. What about me? Meng Yao was pissed off. Why did her best friend always bring up this kind of stuff? Was it because of the hormones in her puberty? Are you going to try it? Yushu ignored Meng Yao's anger and continued. I'll try it with you. Meng Yao was furious. Oh, I know. Yao Yao sis, you really like me. No wonder you get jealous whenever I mention Shield Bro. You're gay. Yushu said. Meng Yao didn't want to say anything else. She knew that Yushu was joking. It didn't matter if she explained or not. The more she explained, the angrier she would get. After a while, Xiaofu felt that the incense in the cave was almost there. He nodded. Pinliang walked to the entrance of the cave and called out to Meng Yao and Yushu, Meng Yao, big discovery. Big discovery. Meng Yao raised her head and took a deep breath, suppressing her anger at Yushu. What discovery? You'll know when you come over. There's a door in the cave. Pinliang yelled. That's weird. Oh. Meng Yao blinked. Why was there a door in the cave? Pulling Yushu along, Lin Yi quickened his steps towards the cave. He looked in the direction of Pinliang's flashlight, and saw a security door. There's a door here. Is there really a door here? What was going on? Someone lives there. I don't know. We've studied it for a long time, but we still don't know what's going on. Pinliang said worriedly, why don't we call it a day? This place feels weird. Go knock on the door. How could Meng Yao give up just like that? Especially when she saw the door, it meant that someone was living here. The first possibility Meng Yao thought of was that her mother was living in seclusion here. Although it was a little strange, her impulsiveness had overtaken her rationality. Pinliang could only nod. Since the beauty has a request, I'll give it my all. Sigh, but don't blame me if anything happens, we've been through thick and thin together. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up. Meng Yao was worried. Pinliang was taking his time, but she felt dizzy. She didn't know what was going on. Pinliang walked over and knocked on the door. Meng Yao's head was getting dizzier and dizzier. Her eyelids were starting to give out, and she was about to fall asleep. Shoo, I'm so sleepy. Me too, Yao Yao, I want to sleep. Yushu said as she fell into Meng Yao's arms. Meng Yao, on the other hand, fell to the ground after being pushed by Yushu. Pinliang was overjoyed. It seemed like the incense was working, but he wasn't in a rush. What if the two woke up? After a while, Xiaofu spoke up after seeing that the two weren't moving. Liang bro, it's fine now. The owner said that they won't wake up for at least 10 hours. That's good. Get them into the house. Pinliang pointed at the door. You go open the door. Okay. Xiaofu took out the key and opened the door. Pinliang and Meng Yao hurriedly got Yushu and Meng Yao into the room. Pinliang and Xiaofu heard that the incense was powerful, but they hadn't used it before. They didn't have any experience, so they didn't dare make too much noise. They were very careful, afraid that they'd wake Meng Yao and Yushu up. After everything was done, Pinliang shook his head regretfully. It'd be great if I could touch Meng Yao's body. But he didn't dare to. He was afraid that he'd wake Meng Yao up. Yeah, leave Yushu to me. I like her. Xiaofu was drooling as well. If you want to die, you can touch her. Pinliang said coldly. I wouldn't even bother with her if I had a choice. Her background isn't something we can mess with. Xiaofu couldn't help but shiver. He'd been blinded by his lust, but Pinliang's reminder reminded him of Yushu's brother's glorious past. He quickly put away his unrealistic thoughts. Ha, I was just saying. Xiaofu laughed dryly. He knew that these two weren't the school beauties he could touch. He wanted to find a school beauty as his girlfriend, but other than these two, he couldn't touch anyone else. Tang Yun was the school beauty as well, but with a master like Lin Yi around, who would dare touch her? The new transfer, Xiao Xiao, was even more so. Xiaofu didn't dare touch her either. Xiaofu was a little dejected. This was his fate. He wasn't fated to be the school beauty. Keep these 2 phones. Pinliang handed the 2 phones to Xiaofu. Liang bro, you keep them for yourself, I don't dare take them. Xiaofu was very careful after the scolding, afraid that he'd get dragged into it. Coward. Pinliang humphed, not caring at all. He put the phone in his pocket. Let's go. Okay. Xiaofu didn't want to stay here any longer. He followed Pinliang out. Chapter 541. Chapter 541, Secrets in the Phone. Liang bro, it's fine. Didn't we already have a plan? Xiaofu could tell that Pinliang was nervous. If Pingzhan accepts you, Liang bro, then everything will be fine. If he doesn't accept it, we'll just let Mengyao go. Mengyao doesn't know that we set this up anyways, and we'll just say that the cave owner set us up together. She doesn't have any proof, and she'll even thank us for saving her. Who knows, maybe we'll be the hero that saves the damsel in distress, and Mengyao will fall for us. Pinliang nodded. This was also the main reason why he used the incense instead of force. Even if things didn't work out and Mengyao asked him about it later, he could always push the blame away and say that he'd fainted from the incense as well, but they'd only captured the 2 of them, leaving him and Xiaofu at the foot of the mountain. Although this would arouse Mengyao and Pingzhan's suspicions, it was just a suspicion. They wouldn't be able to do anything to him without any proof. This was also one of the reasons why Pinliang wasn't afraid. If Pingzhan didn't agree to his relationship with Mengyao, then he could just let Mengyao go. He wouldn't be able to do anything to Mengyao then. He believed that Pingzhan wouldn't hold this matter against him. Pinliang had Xiaofu hail a taxi after they got down the mountain, and the 2 made their way back to school quickly. As for Mengyao, he'd have to wait until Uncle Fu came to pick up Mengyao and Yushu after school. He'd only be able to meet up with Pingzhan then. During the self-study session at night, Pinliang and Xiaofu acted as if nothing had happened. It was as if Mengyao and Yushu's disappearance had nothing to do with them. In fact, no one dared to ask about the whereabouts of the 2 young ladies. Since the 2 of them had left, the teacher had turned a blind eye to it. Pinliang was bored and wanted to see if there were any private pictures in Mingyao's phone. It would be best if there were naked pictures. That way, Pinliang could look at the pictures and fantasize about it. Unfortunately, Mengyao evidently didn't like selfies. There were only a couple of pictures of Yushu in the album, and nothing else worth imagining. Pinliang pressed the power off button, deciding to put the phone back into Mingyao's backpack. He couldn't explain himself if he had it in his hands. As for Yushu's phone, Pinliang didn't want to look at it. He didn't want to, nor did he dare. What if he saw something bad and Yushu found out? The girl wouldn't let him off the hook. Who knew if Zihua Bro and Master Bing would be able to mess with Yushu? But it didn't take long before Pinliang's heart started itching again. He remembered that Yushu's photo was in Mingyao's phone. Could Yushu have Mingyao's photo in her phone? The 2 of them might even take photos of each other. With that in mind, Pinliang pulled out Yushu's phone, turned it on, and opened the photo album. Quack. Pinliang's eyes widened as the person in Yushu's photo album was none other than Lin Yi. This surprised Pinliang. Why would Yushu have Lin Yi's photo in her phone? He flipped through it, and there were photos of Lin Yi in school, and there were photos of Lin Yi roasting the shark. There were many more similar photos. Pinliang was speechless. This girl couldn't have fallen for Lin Yi, could she? But thinking about Yushu's personality, it was possible. But there was an 80% chance that it was just a crush. He couldn't see any relationship between Lin Yi and Yushu normally. Pin Liang let out a sigh of relief. If he let Lin Yi and Yushu get together, he'd be in deep trouble. The more he looked, the more depressed he got. He turned off Yushu's phone and shook his head. He didn't expect this at all. Did Meng Yao know about Yushu's crush on Lin Yi? But it wasn't his business. Pin Liang didn't have the time to care about stuff like this, especially when it involved Lin Yi. He didn't want to care about it. What if he got himself into trouble again? When school was finally over, Pin Liang stuffed Meng Yao and Yushu's phones back into their bags and walked out of the school alone. He didn't bring Xiaofu with him this time. There was no need. It'd be troublesome if Xiaofu got involved. Falbert's Bentley had been parked at the alley in front of the school for the past 3 years. Pin Liang remembered it very clearly. He found Falbert's Bentley easily. Pin Liang took a deep breath to calm himself down before knocking on the window. "What's up?" Falbert knew Pin Liang, as well as that he was the nephew of the company's previous shareholder, Jean Gubang. He was also Meng Yao's admirer. "Falbert, take me to Uncle Chu." Pin Liang ordered Falbert with an unquestionable tone. With that, he opened the passenger door and got in the car. "Oh. You want to see Mr. Chu?" Falbert frowned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this impolite, getting in the car directly. Even if Jean Gubang was a shareholder of the company, he didn't have the right to do this, did he? Not to mention that Jean Gubang wasn't. Falbert's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. If Pin Liang wasn't out of his mind, then he had something to rely on. So Falbert didn't chase him away right away. He wanted to know more about Pin Liang first. "That's right. This happened so suddenly. I have to talk to Uncle Chu face to face," Pin Liang said fearlessly. "Oh, then we'll wait for Yao Yao. You come with us." Falbert didn't say anything else after seeing how confident Pin Liang was. As for what he wanted to do, that was Mr. Chu's business. Falbert didn't have the right to ask. No need to wait. "Yao Yao is at my house," Pin Liang said proudly. "She's my girlfriend from now on. The most important thing for you now is to bring me to Uncle Chu. I need to talk to him about me and Yao Yao." Falbert paused. He looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. He started to suspect that Meng Yao had become Pin Liang's girlfriend. This was impossible in Falbert's eyes. Falbert took out his phone and dialed Meng Yao's number. However, her phone was turned off. He dialed Yushu's number again. It was the same. Falbert put down his phone and said, "Since you want to see Mr. Chu, then let's go." Chapter 542. Live-in son-in-law Falbert, naturally, didn't believe Pin Liang's words. From Falbert's point of view, Pin Liang was most likely making things up. His relationship with Meng Yao couldn't possibly be as he said. But Meng Yao's phone was switched off, and Yushu couldn't be contacted. Pin Liang was the key person, and he had to control him. And so, Falbert quietly started the car and said to Pin Liang, "Mr. Chu is still in the company, but I need to make a call to confirm." "No problem, go ahead." Pin Liang was sure that Falbert couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't care. So what if he notified Pingzhan in advance? He would see Pingzhan sooner or later anyway. Falbert nodded and dialed Pingzhan's number. Pingzhan's life had been smooth sailing for the past few days. Without Jean Gubang and Xia Guangbua, the company's second-largest shareholder, Lin Yi, had given Pingzhan full authority to make all the decisions. Whether it was the board of directors or the shareholders' meeting, everything had become Pingzhan's. No small shareholder dared to jump out and go against Pingzhan. After all, Jean Gubang and Xia Guangbua's fate was clear for all to see. No one wanted to be the next target. Ping Zhan was in the middle of a shareholders' meeting, and no one dared to turn on their phones. Of course, Ping Zhan himself was the only exception. No one dared to say anything. Ping Zhan looked at the caller ID and picked up the phone. Li Fu, what's up? I'm in the middle of a shareholders' meeting. Mr. Chu, Mr. Zhong Pinliang wants to see you. Faubert cut to the chase. Miss should be in his hands. What? Yao Yao is in Pinliang's hands. Ping Zhan was stunned. He didn't expect Pinliang to be so daring as to kidnap Meng Yao. Ping Zhan had gotten used to his authority recently, and now that someone dared to kidnap his daughter, he was enraged. Faubert wanted to explain, but Pinliang grabbed the phone from him. Give me the phone, I'll talk to Uncle Chu. Faubert didn't insist and passed the phone to Pinliang. In truth, Faubert didn't know what Pinliang did to Meng Yao. Uncle Chu, I'm Zhong Pinliang. Pinliang accepted the phone politely, trying to make his tone as respectful as possible. As far as he was concerned, Ping Zhan was going to be his father-in-law soon. Pinliang, where's Yao Yao? Ping Zhan wasn't in the mood for small talk. His tone was cold. Uncle Chu, Yao Yao has agreed to be my girlfriend. We just confirmed our relationship today. She is resting in my house now. Pinliang said. I was thinking about discussing our engagement with Uncle Chu. Yao Yao agreed to be your girlfriend. Ping Zhan frowned. Come to my company now. Ping Zhan didn't express his suspicions. Some things couldn't be explained over the phone. He needed to see Pinliang first. He still hadn't figured out what Pinliang was trying to do. Okay, I'll be there now. Pinliang saw that Ping Zhan didn't suspect him right away, instead asking him to talk to the company. He thought that Ping Zhan believed him, and was overjoyed. He hung up and ordered Li Fu. Did you hear that? Uncle Chu wants you to bring me to the company. Okay. Faubert didn't say anything else. He put away his phone and turned the car towards Ping Zhan Industries. Pinliang was in a very good mood as he looked at Ping Zhan's skyscraper. He was about to become Ping Zhan's son-in-law, and Ping Zhan didn't have a son. Did this mean that the family business would be his from now on? With that in mind, Pinliang started calculating in his heart. When he saw Ping Zhan later, he'd do whatever it took to convince him to accept him as his son-in-law. Ping Zhan was in the middle of a meeting when he heard that something had happened to his daughter. He ended the meeting quickly and returned to his office. In fact, Ping Zhan didn't really believe Pinliang's words. His daughter would have fallen for Pinliang a long time ago if she could. She wouldn't have waited until now. Pinliang's claim that Meng Yao had agreed to be his girlfriend was complete bullshit. But Ping Zhan was puzzled. Why would Faubert be messing around with Pinliang? There could only be one reason. His daughter was missing. Faubert must have gone to pick up his daughter from school. He must have waited for Pinliang because he didn't get his daughter. With that in mind, Ping Zhan gave Meng Yao and Yushu a call, confirming his suspicions after hearing that their phones had been turned off. Ping Zhan was calmer than usual after the company's turmoil, and as anxious as he was, he didn't let it show on his face. He sat quietly in front of his desk, waiting for Pinliang to show up. After about half an hour, Faubert brought Pinliang to Ping Zhan's office. Hello, Uncle Chu. Pinliang bowed to Ping Zhan as if he was a son-in-law visiting his home. Pinliang, have a seat. Ping Zhan gestured for Pinliang to sit. He then turned to Faubert. Pour some tea. How can I trouble Faubert? I'll do it myself. Pinliang was overjoyed. Was Ping Zhan accepting him? Otherwise, what kind of status did Fu Bo have? How could he let him pour tea for him personally? Pinliang knew about Faubert's identity through his uncle. He was a man of authority in the company. He might only be a driver, but he was Ping Zhan's confidant. Normal employees wouldn't dare let Faubert pour tea for them. Faubert only worked for Pingzhan and Meng Yao. Now that Pingzhan was letting Faubert pour tea for him, did that mean that he was accepted by Pingzhan as his son-in-law? Pinliang thought excitedly. He hadn't even said anything yet, and Pingzhan believed him already. You kidnapped my daughter. Pingzhan's cold voice rang out in his head. Wah! Pinliang was just about to take the cup of tea from Uncle Fu when he jumped in fright, dropping the teacup in his hand onto the floor, shattering into pieces. Uncle Chu. Don't say that, How could I possibly do something illegal like that? Chapter 543. Two possibilities, She's resting in my house. Didn't I tell you? Yao Yao and I are already in a relationship. Pinliang said calmly. He knew that he couldn't lower his head. His plan would be ruined if he did. Relationship? What relationship? Pingzhan asked. It's a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. Pinliang tried to calm himself down. Think about it, what relationship can there be? Then why is she in your house? Why didn't she come with you? Pingzhan didn't believe Pinliang. She's tired and fell asleep. You know, girls usually have trouble moving around when they do it for the first time. Pinliang said embarrassedly. First of all, she was embarrassed. Second of all, I was worried that she wouldn't be able to move around, so I let her sleep at home and rest. Oh? Is that so? Pingzhan frowned. He didn't believe that his daughter would have a relationship with another guy so casually. Although his daughter had grown up, this kind of thing wasn't something that could be done so casually. Even if Meng Yao and Lin Yi did it, Pingzhan would still be suspicious, let alone Pinliang, who Meng Yao didn't like. Unless his daughter was confused. Wait. Confused? Could it be that Pinliang had done something? Pingzhan was enraged at the thought. If this kid dared to do it, Pingzhan would kill him even if he had to give up his family business. Pinliang felt a little guilty when he saw the unfriendly look on Pingzhan's face, but he didn't want to back down. Uncle Chu, don't worry, Yao Yao's fine. She's just a little tired and fell asleep. Then tell me, how did you two get together? What did my daughter promise you? The more Pingzhan looked at Pinliang, the more he felt that something was wrong. He was someone who had been in the business world for many years. How could he not be observant? Not to mention a noob high school student like Pinliang, even those old foxes in the business world wouldn't be able to tell if something was wrong under Pingzhan's observation. Hence, Pingzhan felt that Pinliang wasn't telling the truth. Of course, there were two kinds of lies. Pingzhan wasn't sure which one it was. The good news was that his daughter was completely fine, and Pinliang was just bluffing. The worst-case scenario was that half of what Pinliang said was true. He really did do something to Meng Yao, but his methods weren't that glorious. Uncle Chu, you also know that I have been pursuing Yao Yao. Wasn't he going to graduate soon? I thought that if I didn't confess now, I wouldn't have another chance. Pinliang had already thought of an excuse, so when Pingzhan asked, he went straight to the point. A couple of days ago, on the tree planting day, I prepared a show of my love for you guys that never sleeps. I used fireworks to form the words Yao Yao, I love you. That day, all the teachers and students were there, they could all bear witness. So, Yao Yao was touched, she accepted my confession and became my girlfriend. Really? Pingzhan was starting to believe Pinliang's words a little more after hearing his confession. Of course, he believed that Pinliang had really made this confession, not that his daughter had accepted it. Of course, Yao Yao was so touched. Pinliang said proudly. As the saying goes, sincerity can move mountains. I've been pursuing Yao Yao for 3 years, even a girl would be touched. Oh, so you guys went to get a room today? Pingzhan nodded and asked faintly. Ha ha. It's not getting a room, it's going to my house. Pinliang nodded embarrassedly. Uncle Chu, I'm sure you've been around this age as well. Since Yao Yao and I are in a relationship, everything else should be in order. But don't worry, I'll take responsibility. Oh. Pingzhan nodded. Just when Pinliang thought that he had passed the test, he heard Pingzhan's sudden question. Yao Yao went to get a room with you, did Shu go too? Ah. This. Shu. Pinliang's forehead was covered in sweat. Yes, Meng Yao went to get a room with him, but what was Yushu doing? Clearly, Pingzhan had tried to contact Yushu, but he couldn't reach her. In his plan, Yushu wasn't included. He only wanted Meng Yao to follow him up the mountain and lock her up. Who would have thought that Meng Yao wouldn't tell Yushu to leave when he was talking to Meng Yao? Yushu, the curious girl, followed them up the mountain as well. Pinliang had no choice but to imprison Yushu as well. Otherwise, what if Yushu went out and spread the news? At first, Pinliang thought that it was just one more person. It wasn't a big deal, and it wouldn't affect his chances. But now that Pingzhan asked, he realized that he was wrong. He was too naive. Since Pingzhan couldn't find Meng Yao, naturally, the first person he thought of was Yushu. Since Yushu was missing as well, the lie he'd made earlier would fall apart on its own. He didn't need to bring Yushu with him to get a room with Meng Yao, and he couldn't bring someone else with him. Was he trying to kill two birds with one stone? Pinliang thought about it, but he knew that it was impossible. Besides, he didn't have any feelings for Yushu, and he couldn't wait to avoid her. Killing two birds with one stone with her was suicide. What? Nothing to say. Did you not plan your lie well enough? Can't say anything now. Pingzhan humphed coldly. How dare he show such a small trick in front of him? He was thinking too much of the business world. Alright, since you can see through it, that's even better. I won't waste my time making up lies. Pinliang didn't care anymore, and decided to go all out. I've captured Yao Yao and Shu. But don't worry, I won't hurt Shu, I only like Meng Yao. What did you do to Yao Yao? Pingzhan stood up abruptly. He didn't expect Pinliang to be this bold, kidnapping Meng Yao and Yushu. Pingzhan didn't know what Pinliang did to his daughter. What? What else could it be? Pinliang didn't have to be polite anymore since he had already fallen out with Pingzhan. He crossed his legs playfully. Boys and girls together, what do you think? Uncle Chu. Chapter 544. Chapter 544, Zhong Pinliang, I've already done it. What's there to be afraid of? Pinliang said calmly. Uncle Chu, since you already know, I'll be honest with you. You have to acknowledge me as your son-in-law, even if you don't want to acknowledge me as your son-in-law. I've already done what I should, and I didn't use any contraceptive measures. I'm planning to give birth to this child. It's fine if you don't want to acknowledge me as your grandfather. My family can afford it. My father is more than happy to have a grandson or granddaughter with him. How dare you come to my office? Aren't you afraid that I'll send you to the police station? Pingzhan couldn't tell if Pinliang was telling the truth or not, but he was absolutely furious. He hadn't been this furious even when Gubang and Guangbo were trying to take over Pingzhan Industries. He was sad and regretful at that time, but now, he wanted to strangle Pinliang to death. I don't think you would. Pinliang shook his head. Uncle Chu, you're considered a respectable person in Songshan, and Pingzhan Industries is one of the top 500 companies in the country. Uncle Chu's family matters have a lot of media attention. If you're not afraid of losing face, you should blow this matter up. Let's see who will benefit from it. At most, my crime is drugging and raping Meng Yao, who took the aphrodisiac drug. At most, I'll give in half. Let's not talk about whether we can find any evidence. Even if we can, I'll only be sentenced to a few years. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Uncle Chu. My father and Sihua Bro are working for Master Bing now. Master Bing won't let me go to jail, right? Pingzhan naturally knew the name Master Bing. He also knew that the deal between Gubang and Sihua was for this Master Bing. The so-called Master Bing was the illegitimate son of the heir of a noble house. That house was very influential in the province, and Master Bing was quite capable as well. This was also the main reason why Pingzhan didn't retaliate after knowing who the mastermind behind the scheme was. Pingzhan couldn't even arm wrestle with Sihua, let alone fight against Master Bing. Pingzhan didn't want to have anything to do with people like that. He was a proper businessman, and he wasn't Sihua's opponent. What surprised Pingzhan was that Pinliang's father, Zhong Fabai, was working for Master Bing. What did Master Bing see in Fabai? Pingzhan's expression changed, and Pinliang knew that Pingzhan was afraid. He was overjoyed. I knew you were afraid. Thus, he continued to add fuel to the fire. Uncle Chu, you have to think carefully. I'll go to jail for a few years at most, but the jail is full of Sihua Bro's people, and I'll be taken care of after I get in. I'm going to enjoy myself for a few years, and you're going to offend Sihua Bro. Most importantly, if you mess up Master Bing's plans, I don't have to tell you what the consequences will be. Whoever dares to hurt my daughter, I don't care who he is, I will make him pay the price. I'd rather give up this company. Pingzhan stared at Pinliang fiercely. He had his reservations, but he could do anything for his daughter. Why do you have to do this? I'm not a disgrace as a son-in-law. Since what's done is done, why don't we get engaged in a proper way? Pinliang said calmly. My dad isn't the boss of a nightclub anymore. Our family's background isn't any weaker than House Chu's. What do you think? What I said makes sense, right? You don't. Pingzhan said coldly, if you really do anything to Yao Yao, even with your background, I'll make you pay the price in blood. Don't think I'm joking. Why? Why do you have to do this? Pinliang didn't dare to look at Pingzhan's eyes, and he laughed dryly. You know, your daughter is already a broken flower. If this gets out of hand, it'll affect both your and Yao Yao's reputation. She doesn't have anything against me now, and if you understand the situation, I'll still respect you as my father-in-law. Otherwise, we'll continue to cause trouble. Alright, I'd like to see who's going to protect you. Whether it's Master Bing or Sihua, they'll stand up for you. Pingzhan said slowly as he looked at Pinliang. Pinliang panicked. Why was this Pingzhan so stubborn? It was said that businessmen cared about profits the most. There were no eternal enemies, only profits. In this situation, he could only do what he said to achieve a win-win situation. Did Pingzhan really want to fight to the death? But he couldn't show it on the surface. Uncle Chu, are you really going to sue me? Let me think about this. You can go back first. Pingzhan didn't continue threatening Pinliang, but waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Pinliang was confused by Pingzhan's attitude. What did Pingzhan mean? Did he approve of him or not? Why did he want him to leave so suddenly? Pinliang knew that since Pingzhan had asked him to leave, he couldn't stay any longer. That would only make Pingzhan suspicious. He guessed that Pingzhan couldn't make up his mind right now. After all, everything happened so suddenly. Although he proposed a win-win situation, Pingzhan still had to weigh the pros and cons carefully. Was he going to fight to the death or accept him as his son-in-law? It was good that there was a chance. Pinliang sighed in relief after thinking it through. He said, "All right, Uncle Chu, think about it carefully. If you want to send me to prison, then there's nothing I can do. Ping Zhan didn't say anything, and Pin Liang could only stand up bitterly. Ping Zhan's attitude made it impossible for him to carry out the next step of his plan. His original plan was that if Ping Zhan accepted him as his son-in-law, he'd go to the cave in Mount Shuangyan overnight and cook Meng Yao. If Ping Zhan didn't agree, he'd release Meng Yao. Nothing would really happen to Meng Yao this way, and he believed that Ping Zhan wouldn't hold him responsible for anything. After all, Meng Yao was fine. If Ping Zhan continued to pester her, then he'd be an idiot. Master Bing and Sihua weren't people to be messed with. This was why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. He was hesitant before, but after knowing the relationship between Sihua and Master Bing, he became bolder. Chapter 545. Chapter 545, Falbert's True Strength. Mr. Pin Liang, please. Falbert gestured for him to leave. Pin Liang nodded silently and left the office. He knew that Falbert wouldn't be able to send him back this time. He didn't want to embarrass himself, so he didn't mention it. Follow him. Check on Yao Yao's situation, Ping Zhan ordered Falbert after Pin Liang left the office. Yes, Mr. Chu. Falbert nodded and left the office. He said to Pin Liang, Mr. Pin Liang, let me send you back. Pin Liang was overjoyed. What did this mean? Did it mean that Ping Zhan still wanted to reconcile? Pin Liang's mood brightened up at the thought of this. He was very confident that Ping Zhan would agree to this in the end. Then, I'll have to trouble you, Falbert. Pin Liang was already acting like a live-in son-in-law. Falbert didn't say much. He went downstairs with Pin Liang and got in the car. Where are you going, Mr. Pin Liang? I'm going home. Pin Liang thought. He couldn't let Falbert see through him. Yao Yao is still waiting for me at home. I have to go back early. If she's hungry, I'll have to make her instant noodles. Oh. Since Miss Chu is at your house and you haven't eaten yet, come with me to the restaurant. Falbert said. I prepare food for Miss Chu every day. All right, give it to me then. Pin Liang nodded. He was glad that he had dinner now. After getting dinner from the restaurant, Falbert sent Pin Liang to Pin Liang's villa. Falbert wanted to go up with Pin Liang, but Pin Liang stopped him. Mr. Zhong, I'd like to see Miss Chu and ask if she needs anything. It's getting late, so I'm afraid I can't go back yet. I'll go buy some toiletries for her, Falbert explained faintly. Oh, no need. Pin Liang wouldn't let Falbert go up. Wouldn't everything be exposed if he couldn't see Meng Yao? He quickly waved his hand and said, Falbert, Yao Yao is definitely not wearing clothes at this moment. If you go up, it is not convenient. Oh, then why don't you go in and let her put on her clothes? Falbert suggested. It's not convenient for her. You should know that it's the first time for a girl. It's not convenient for her to wear clothes. Pin Liang had an idea. Plus, I have toiletries in the guest room. I'll just get her a set. If that's the case, then forget it. Go up yourself. Falbert passed the lunchbox to Pin Liang and went back into the car. Pin Liang took the lunchbox and quickly went upstairs to his room. He looked out the window and saw that Falbert's car had already left. He let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he left. I almost didn't manage to hide it from him. Thank God I was smart, or else I would have failed miserably. As long as he could endure these 2 days, Ping Zhan would have a plan. He would be able to see the light of day. Pin Liang opened the lunchbox in front of him and found that it was quite a sumptuous dinner. He couldn't help but eat quickly. In fact, Falbert's departure was just a facade. He didn't leave directly. He drove around and parked the car in a corner. He got out of the car and went to Pin Liang's villa, hiding behind a transformer box. He looked at Pinliang's window on the second floor. Pinliang was still there. Falbert let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Pinliang would slip away in a blink of an eye, but it seemed that Pinliang didn't leave directly. He didn't know if it was because he was being cautious or something else. After reporting the situation to Pingzhan, Falbert continued to stay here to keep an eye on Pinliang. Pingzhan arranged for Falbert to come here so that Falbert could figure out what was going on with Meng Yao and Yushu. Pingzhan and Falbert didn't believe that Pinliang would be so stupid as to leave Meng Yao and Yushu at home. That was suicide. What Pinliang said before was just a lie. What Pingzhan and Falbert couldn't be sure was whether Pinliang did anything to Meng Yao or not. In this case, Falbert could only follow Pinliang in secret and find Meng Yao's prison location. Only then could they investigate clearly. Pinliang wasn't that stupid. Although he didn't see Falbert's car from the window on the second floor, he didn't dare to go to the cave on Mount Shuangyan under these circumstances. Before Pingzhan made a clear statement, it would be a waste of time for him to go. Plus, there was enough food and water in the cave. The two girls wouldn't starve to death. After dinner, Pinliang watched a horror movie for a while and went to sleep. Fabai had been discussing the demolition with Master Bing and Siwa these past few days. He didn't have time to go home at all. How could he let go of this opportunity to build a relationship with his backer? Falbert saw that all the lights in Pinliang's house were off, but he didn't act rashly. Instead, he waited for a while. About an hour later, when a normal person should be asleep, Falbert jumped into the villa's courtyard and climbed up to Pinliang's window. He looked inside through the gap of the curtains. Pinliang was sleeping alone on his single bed. There was no one else in the house. Falbert was even more sure of his guess. Meng Yao shouldn't be in Pinliang's house. However, he didn't dare to be 100% sure. Falbert planned to search the villa first. It was never wrong to be careful. Other than Pingzhan, no one knew that Falbert was a golden-class physical practitioner. In fact, even Pingzhan didn't have a clear idea of how much Falbert's strength had recovered. Falbert's current strength had reached the peak of the late phase of the golden class. However, it was impossible for a physical practitioner to break through to the mystic class without a suitable opportunity. So, physical practitioners like Gong Gao, who were in the early phase of the mystic class, were very rare. Because Falbert only trained his physique, he used his body to achieve strong strength. The energy waves in his body weren't much different from a normal person. So, Lin Yi couldn't detect his true strength. Unless Falbert gathered his strength and attacked, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to detect it. However, when he was with Falbert, Falbert almost never attacked. Until now, Lin Yi still hadn't figured out the reason why Falbert's strength didn't exist. Chapter 546. Yao Yao's whereabouts. However, the secret room was filled with jewelry, cash, and property certificates. Falbert wasn't interested in these things. After confirming that Meng Yao wasn't in the villa, Falbert left the villa quickly. Falbert was sure that it was impossible to hide one person in the villa, let alone two people. Since Pinliang's villa was huge, the furniture was arranged loosely. It was easy to see if anyone was hiding there. After leaving Pinliang's villa, Falbert gave Pingzhan a call. Pingzhan couldn't sleep tonight as he waited for Falbert's news. When he received the call, he was relieved. He knew that Falbert's search results were out. Whether his daughter was in Pinliang's villa or not, it was good news. "Hello, Li Fu, how is it?" Pingzhan asked. "Miss Chu isn't in the villa. Pinliang didn't do anything after he came home. He went to sleep after eating." Falbert summarized the current situation. "Oh. So, Yao Yao is hidden somewhere else." Pingzhan breathed out in relief. It was very likely that Pinliang hadn't succeeded yet. Young people were very obsessed with that kind of thing. Pingzhan didn't believe that Pinliang wouldn't do it again after the first time. He could even sleep at home peacefully. As long as he did it, no matter what Pingzhan's attitude was, he wouldn't wait to do it again. Even if Pingzhan sent him to prison, he would do it after he had done it, right? If Pingzhan acknowledged him as his son-in-law, it would be normal for him to do it. How could he hold back? That must be it. Faubert said. Mr. Chu, I think Miss Chu is fine. Pinliang hasn't succeeded yet. I think so too. Pingzhan smiled. Li Fu, I'll have to trouble you. Follow Pinliang closely and pay attention to his movements. I understand, Mr. Chu. Don't worry, Faubert knew how important Pinliang was. As long as he followed him, he would definitely be able to find Meng Yao. Faubert wasn't worried that Pinliang would send someone else to look for Meng Yao. Some things could only be done by Pinliang himself. He couldn't ask someone else to do it for him, could he? So if Pinliang hadn't succeeded yet, then there was no need to worry. If he succeeded, then worrying was pointless. Right, Mr. Chu, do we need to inform Mr. Lin about this? Faubert asked. There's no need for that. Lil Yi has his own things to do. I'd be happy to see him have his own career instead of just being a follower by Yao Yao's side. Pingzhan didn't know what Lin Yi was doing, but he knew that Lin Yi wouldn't be doing something useless. Plus, a man had to be strong. He couldn't live off a woman, could he? All right. Faubert was just reminding Pingzhan. He didn't say anything else since Pingzhan had already said so. Pinliang slept through the night and went to school as usual the next day. Fabai had been busy with Master Bing's company for the past 2 days, so he didn't have time to send Pinliang to school. Pinliang took a taxi to school on his own. Faubert followed him from afar, confused. Why did Pinliang come to school as if nothing had happened? Wasn't he worried about Meng Yao? In fact, Pinliang was very worried, but he knew that worrying wouldn't help. Pingzhan's attitude hadn't been decided yet, and he couldn't move on to the next step. He could only drag it out for now. It wasn't convenient for Faubert to follow Pinliang into the school himself, but Pingzhan was a shareholder of Songshan's first school. Faubert found a few random people and asked them to keep an eye on Pinliang. Naturally, these people fought for the job. Of course, Wang Jifeng was one of them. He was a person who was good at currying favor. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to build a good relationship with the higher-ups when Faubert gave him a mission. He patted his chest and promised that he would keep an eye on Pinliang's movements. Wang Jifeng didn't care about anything else this time. He grabbed a notebook and went to class 5 to listen to the class. It was normal for the dean to check on work, but this was the first time he did it for an entire day. However, Wang Jifeng didn't care about what others thought. He sat in the last row of class 5 and refused to leave. Coincidentally, he was sitting right next to Pinliang, too. Pinliang was frustrated. What the hell was going on? He didn't even have the chance to discuss a plan with Xiaofu. He hoped that the god of plague would leave as soon as possible, but he didn't show any signs of leaving after a whole morning. At noon, Pinliang was about to go outside with Xiaofu to discuss a plan when Wang Jifeng called out to him with a dark face. Pinliang, where are you two going? Are you going to smoke in the bathroom? Pinliang looked like he was about to cry, but he didn't dare not answer. I'm going to eat lunch. Oh, then let's call this classmate. Xiaofu. Go buy it and eat it in the classroom. Let's go to the cafeteria. I'm hungry anyways, buy me some too. It's my treat. He took out 50 kuai and handed it to Xiaofu. Xiaofu didn't dare reject the dean's order. However, he couldn't understand why the academic affairs dean would treat them to a meal. Are you kidding me? Although it's just a bento box, this kind of treatment is unparalleled. Pinliang couldn't do anything about it. He didn't suspect anything, though. Wang Jifeng didn't like him very much, especially after Gubang was no longer a shareholder. He'd always caused trouble for Pinliang. Who knew what was up with Wang Jifeng today? Pinliang really didn't want to piss him off. Uncle Fu didn't expect Wang Jifeng to be so responsible. He was practically Pinliang's bodyguard, but it gave him some time to sneak back to Pinliang's house in the morning. There was no one in the house, so Uncle Fu snuck back and did a thorough search. He didn't search Pinliang's room last night, so he might as well do it today. However, he didn't find any useful clues in Pinliang's room. At this point, Faubert was 100% sure that Meng Yao wasn't in Pinliang's house. But if Meng Yao wasn't in Pinliang's house, then where could she be? The problem was that Yushu was missing as well, and the two of them had disappeared at the same time. Where could Pinliang put them? Faubert wiped away all traces he left in Pinliang's house. A normal person wouldn't be able to detect Faubert's presence, but Faubert always had to be careful. It was a habit. Chapter 547. This is kind of awkward. The third auction was held as scheduled, and this was also the last auction organized by House Yu. In this auction, Lin Yi didn't have anything that he wanted to bid for. Originally, he didn't want to participate, but because the last auction item was a deluxe edition of the injury medicine provided by his company, Lin Yi had to participate. It was reasonable to say that the third auction was the main stage of the auction, and it was the time for the big families to make their moves. However, Lin Yi was not a person who attached himself to the arts, and he had no interest in the real top-grade jewelry and antiques. "Boss, is there nothing you like?" Fatty Lai asked worriedly when he saw that Lin Yi didn't give him any instructions and just put the catalog aside. "There's nothing worth me making a move." Lin Yi shook his head. "If you like something, just do it. I'm going to sleep for a while." Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. Lin Yi was probably the only one who slept in the third round of the auction, wasn't he? Xiao Xiao was still sitting beside Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi wanted to kick her out, she wouldn't leave, so Lin Yi didn't bother to say anything. "Hey, Lin Yi, do you think I'm the girl who knows the most of your secrets?" Xiao Xiao didn't want Lin Yi to sleep, so she pulled him over to talk. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi pretended not to understand. "Tang Yin doesn't know about your company, does she? They didn't know that you could cure illnesses, did they? Even your two young misses don't know you as well as I do, right?" Xiao Xiao couldn't help but feel a little smug, thinking that she was the one who understood Lin Yi the most. "Oh, maybe," Lin Yi said lightly, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but get a little annoyed at Lin Yi's nonchalant face. What kind of person was this? He didn't know how to flirt at all. If it were a guy, he'd probably be excited, wouldn't he? Was his tone not ambiguous enough? Xiao Xiao had never pursued a guy before, and she'd never been in a relationship before. All her knowledge came from the internet and books, so she didn't know what to do. All she could do was sulk. "If there's nothing else, I'll take a nap." Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao. "I'm a bit sleepy." "Then. I'm also a little sleepy." "I'll sleep too." Xiao Xiao gritted her teeth and laid down on Lin Yi's shoulder. "Good night." Lin Yi frowned and wanted to turn his body sideways, but Xiao Xiao's head was like a magnet, moving wherever he moved. Lin Yi couldn't just lie on top of him, could he? "Stop fooling around." Lin Yi scolded. "Fool, fool." Xiao Xiao pretended to be asleep, ignoring Lin Yi. Seeing how shameless Xiao Xiao was, Lin Yi got even angrier. Weren't you messing with me? Then let's see who gets the worst of it. Lin Yi put his arm around Xiao Xiao's shoulder, his hand moving towards Xiao Xiao's chest. Ah! Xiao Xiao gasped, her face turning red. She didn't think that Lin Yi would be so bold as to touch her chest. Xiao Xiao wanted to jump up and kick Lin Yi until he died. But Xiao Xiao came to a realization: she was seducing Lin Yi to get him to like her, so how could she do that to him? Now that he was touching her chest, shouldn't she be trying to resist? At that thought, Xiao Xiao started to fidget. Being touched by a guy was a bit of a disadvantage, but in order to get Lin Yi's heart, it was normal to make some sacrifices. If it were when she first met Lin Yi, she would definitely reject Lin Yi touching her, but now, she really did feel like she was trying to resist. Ever since Lin Yi saved her from the sea, and again at the hotel 2 days ago, Xiao Xiao's hatred for Lin Yi had lessened. She didn't know how she felt about Lin Yi now, but she just wanted Lin Yi to like her even more. Xiao Xiao hadn't had this kind of mentality before, so she didn't think too much about it. She just thought that if he touched her now, he'd feel like he owed her, right? Maybe he'd start liking her after touching her, and he wouldn't be able to stop. Lin Yi saw Xiao Xiao move a little, but let him put his hand on her chest, not resisting at all. He couldn't help but feel that it was strange. This Xiao Xiao wouldn't be willing to sacrifice her body for her plan, would she? If that was the case, then why did Lin Yi have to be so polite? Lin Yi wasn't a nice guy, to begin with. He'd been avoiding Xiao Xiao because he didn't want her to keep coming up with stupid plans to screw him over. Now that Xiao Xiao was offering herself to him, there was no reason for Lin Yi to reject her. Plus, this was Lin Yi's first time actually touching a girl's chest. He and Yushu had only had a short misunderstanding before, so how could he touch her like this? Seeing that Xiao Xiao wasn't rejecting him, Lin Yi got bolder and put his hand all over. Yes, this felt good. Lin Yi thought that it'd be great if Tang Yun let him touch her as well. But Lin Yi felt that his thoughts were a little shameful. The person he was touching was Xiao Xiao, and he was thinking of Tang Yun. Xiao Xiao might have sacrificed her body for some reason, but she was still a girl, wasn't she? It didn't seem right for him to touch her like that, right? But Lin Yi didn't want to let go, and so Lin Yi pretended to be asleep as he attacked Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao was also pretending to be asleep, but her face was as red as blood, and her breathing was getting faster and faster. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and hugged Lin Yi tightly, pressing her forehead against his chest, moaning softly. No one knew what she was saying. Lin Yi felt a little awkward as he realized that he'd gone too far. It was nice to touch, but he couldn't just touch it like that, could he? He'd touched Xiao Xiao out of impulse, and now he was regretting it. He quickly let go, but he didn't know if he should push her away or let her hug him. Luckily, after a while, Xiao Xiao let go of Lin Yi and looked up at Lin Yi shyly. Is it nice to touch? Lin Yi thought that the old saying made sense. What did it mean to touch someone's hand was shorter? Wasn't he the perfect example? But Lin Yi wasn't the type of person who wavered. He didn't want to lie when Xiao Xiao asked, so he nodded. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but smile after getting Lin Yi's confirmation. You've never touched Tang Yun before? Lin Yi shook his head. Chapter 548. The same hardcover. Lin Yi wanted to say that he touched Yushu before, but he thought that it was a misunderstanding, so he nodded. It's my first time being touched. Xiao Xiao's smile turned shy. Lin Yi sighed. They weren't going to talk about taking responsibility, were they? This made Lin Yi feel awkward. It's fine, I'm doing this voluntarily. Xiao Xiao gathered her courage, wanting to threaten him with this, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. The words just came out of her mouth, and they just turned into soft, silly words. Aw. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to say that. He looked at her in disbelief. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. With that, Xiao Xiao closed her eyes and laid on the back of the chair. This time, she didn't listen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't understand Xiao Xiao's attitude. Was this still the Xiao Xiao he knew? What was she trying to do? This scene made Lin Yi's understanding of Xiao Xiao a little blurry. All of a sudden, her attitude changed. What was going on with Xiao Xiao? Seeing that Xiao Xiao didn't want to talk to him anymore, Lin Yi closed his eyes helplessly. Lin Yi found it very strange that Xiao Xiao would let go of this so easily. How could he be in the mood to sleep? The auction went on as planned, and many of the items were sold at very high prices. Miracle Dr. Kang's family didn't buy anything, but they were still very happy sitting there. Dr. Kang felt that he was going to become the head of a noble house soon. He would be like these people, with an extraordinary position in society. As long as he had the title of a noble house, his path would become wider. Whether it was buying materials or selling, he would break through his current bottleneck, ushering in a new era for House Kang. Today, it was obvious that the noble house's attitudes towards Miracle Dr. Kang were much warmer than before. This was the reason why Miracle Dr. Kang was so confident. Only House Yu's attitude was a little vague. Haitian nodded at Miracle Dr. Kang calmly, not saying a word. But Dr. Kang thought that House Yu was just trying to avoid arousing suspicion. House Yu was the organizer of the noble house meeting. If they were too close to House Kang, how would people think of them? Sure enough, the third auction is filled with good stuff. Kang Guifeng looked at the people who won the auction enviously, taking all the rare treasures for themselves. Next year, House Kang will return with a full load. This year is a year of development, and we need to use our funds in the right place. Dr. Kang was envious as well. But thinking about the bright future, he was full of confidence. Seeing that the last item was won by a noble house's disciple, Dr. Kang closed the auction catalog in his hands. He was about to leave when the auctioneer continued, "This auction will be the same as yesterday. There will be an additional finale item. This item is provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Injury Medicine, Special Edition." Injury Medicine, Special Edition. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company is also making Special Edition Golden Creation. That's called Injury Medicine, not Golden Creation. But isn't the effect the same? Is there a difference? The audience was in an uproar. Everyone was paying close attention to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. In the first auction, the 3-pill of life extension and toxin cleansing provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company were sold at a sky-high price. So, the third auction item that was added at the last minute had everyone talking about it. But after hearing the name, most people thought that it was something similar to the golden creation that Dr. Kang's medical company provided yesterday. "Dad, why did Guan Shuamin come up with something similar to our golden creation? Does he have the formula for our golden creation as well?" Kang Guifeng frowned when he heard the name of the injury medicine. "They're calling it injury medicine, so it should be different from our golden creation. Besides, it's hard to say if it's effective or not." Dr. Kang wasn't that worried. His golden creation's formula was a secret, and no one would be able to analyze it. Even if they did, the ingredients were rare, and they couldn't be mass-produced. Most of the suppliers in the country were monopolized by House Kang. "He must be copying us." Kang Guifeng scolded unhappily, "How shameless. And he's still calling himself Miracle Dr. Guan. That's a pretty good imitation. Imitation is imitation, it won't achieve anything big." Miracle Dr. Kang shook his head and smiled carelessly. He chose the wrong time to come up with a special edition injury medicine for auction at a time like this. Yeah, Kong Guifeng nodded. Indeed, we've already auctioned the golden creation medicine yesterday. It's basically enough for the entire auction. Who else are they going to sell it to? What a finale. I think it'll be embarrassing if no one buys it later. Let's watch the show. Dr. Kong smiled. Looks like it was the right decision not to leave so early. We can still watch a good show now. Grandpa, why do I feel that Fatty Lai isn't that reckless? Xiaolong was confused. If they brought out the same thing, they'd probably think the same thing. Aren't they afraid of embarrassing themselves? Not that reckless. If he wasn't, why would he spend 20 million to buy a box yesterday? Dr. Kong didn't think much of it. Hasn't he heard of the story of buying the casket and returning the pearls? But he still bought it. This proves that this person's IQ is really low. He was forced to do it yesterday. He couldn't back down now, so of course he had to spend money to buy it. But I feel that Fatty Lai isn't that kind of idiot. Xiaolong shook his head and didn't say anything else since his grandpa didn't think much of it. The auctioneer was very satisfied with everyone's response. He wanted to personally introduce the effects of this hardcover injury medicine, but after thinking about it, it was better to let Lai Changyi personally introduce it. So when everyone was almost done discussing, the host said, I think everyone is very concerned about the effects of this hardcover injury medicine. Let us welcome the CEO of Miracle Dr. Guan Medicine Group, Mr. Lai Changyi, to the stage to introduce the effects of his company's new product, as well as the effects of this injury medicine. Chapter 549. Where did the formula come from? Fatty Lai was looking forward to this opportunity as well. Being able to promote the company was a good thing, so he stood up and walked to the auction stage. It was Fatty Lai's second time on the stage. Even the heads of noble houses didn't get this kind of treatment, but House Yu gave him this face. Of course, this face was for Guan Shuamin. Only Guan Shuamin would receive this kind of treatment. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I believe everyone is curious about what our company's injury medicine and special edition injury medicine are. Fatty Lai said calmly. Now, I'll answer everyone's questions. Of course, other than Miracle Dr. Kang's family, the other noble houses and wealthy businessmen were all very interested in it. Even if it was the same as Dr. Kang's golden creation, they would still be interested. After all, having Miracle Dr. Guan meant that they had another choice. They didn't need to beg Dr. Kang's family anymore. Luckily, we made the skin beautifying golden creation. Otherwise, there'd be changes to the noble house promotion. Miracle Dr. Kong was gritting his teeth in anger. How did they get the recipe? Miracle Dr. Kong gritted his teeth in anger. They probably made it up, Kong Guifeng said. Fake products won't stand the test of the market. If it's something useless, they wouldn't dare to take it out. Xiaolong saw it clearly. Grandpa's right, we're one step ahead of them. We made the skin beautifying golden creation, and we made it at the perfect time to be ahead of others. Fatty Lai, naturally, didn't know what the Kangs were talking about. If he did, he'd probably laugh his head off. This injury medicine is used to stop bleeding and nourish the muscles, allowing the wound to heal faster without leaving any scars. Fatty Lai's words caused an uproar. Wasn't this the same effect as Dr. Kang's golden creation? Dr. Kang's face was ashen. It was one thing to make a guess, but it was another to confirm it. His face wasn't looking good. Anyone can brag. The key is that it has to be effective. Kong Guifeng snorted coldly. Grandpa, does Kong Xiaobo's family have our recipe? Xiaolong suddenly thought of something else. Was the recipe leaked? I don't think so. You're suspecting that they have the formula as well. Dr. Kong understood what Xiaolong meant immediately. Yes, Kong Xiaobo has a good relationship with them. I'm afraid that the formula was leaked by Kong Xiaobo. Xiaolong frowned. Otherwise, why didn't they start the company earlier? Why did he set up the company after he met Kong Xiaobo, and why did he come up with the exact same medicine? Boss probably hasn't seen the recipe. Miracle Dr. Kong shook his head. He'd fallen out with his brother, but it was because of this recipe that they'd fallen out. He'd wanted to use this recipe to get rich, but his brother had insisted that he couldn't touch it or even look at it. That was why they'd fallen out. If his brother had seen the formula, then he wouldn't have had a falling out with him. The two of them could get rich together, and that would be a different story. No, but how can there be such a coincidence in this world? Xiaolong didn't believe it. I'll go back and ask my brother. Dr. Kong frowned. If the formula was really given by his brother, then there was nothing he could do. After all, he didn't have the formula alone. But if it wasn't given by his brother, then he had to investigate. Xiaolong didn't say anything else. He raised his head and looked at Fatty Lai. He didn't know what he was going to say. The normal version of the injury medicine will be available in a month, and there won't be any shortage. The retail price is 199 yuan. Fatty Lai slowly advertised his company's product. He believed that in the near future, the price and effects of his product would spread from the mouths of these people, and more people would know about it. From person to person, from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100. Soon, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine would be known by everyone. Besides, his advantage over Dr. Kang's golden creation was that it was cheap and had a large supply. When people couldn't buy Dr. Kang's golden creation, they would settle for the second best, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. After using it once and realizing that its effects weren't inferior to Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation, it was obvious whether or not they'd buy it again. There won't be any shortage. You're bluffing, aren't you? Kong Guifeng laughed coldly. Our house Kong has taken over all the raw material suppliers in the country. Where are they going to get the raw materials? Even with Guan Shuamin's reputation, they won't be able to get much. That's true. If we had enough raw materials, there wouldn't be a shortage. Who wouldn't want to earn money? Unless the raw materials were too expensive and couldn't cover the cost. But if that's the case, if they bought the raw materials at a high price and sold them for only 199 yuan, wouldn't they be losing even more money? Dr. Kong shook his head. He didn't understand. Even House Kong couldn't guarantee a national supply without any delay. How could Guan Shuamin do it? He's just bluffing, I don't think so. Xiaolong shook his head. First, they've already bragged about it. If they can't meet the demand, their reputation will be tarnished. This is fatal for a new company. If they can lie in one segment, then they can lie in other segments as well. If the media finds a weakness and attacks them, their reputation will be tarnished. Second, if they can't meet the demand, why would they advertise in this place? Wouldn't that be weird? Without enough production, there won't be any profit. Plus, the price is so cheap, it's hard to say if they can cover the cost. Wouldn't it be great if they had the opportunity to advertise their other products? Guifeng heard Xiaolong's words and nodded. His son was right, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Dr. Kong looked at Xiaolong, pleased. Xiaolong, you've thought this through. So, they really do have the goods. I'm guessing so. Xiaolong said. Either they've hoarded a large amount of raw materials at a high price, enough to last them for a while, or they're trying to lose money and expand their reputation, or they have other sources of raw materials. Yes, you're right. Dr. Kong nodded. Looks like the opponent is strong. We've underestimated him. Don't worry. Xiaolong shook his head. Chapter 550. Guanshuamin's bullying. It doesn't matter if they're buying at a high price or if they have other sources, the problem of cost is unavoidable. Xiaolong smiled. All the sources are monopolized by us House Kong, but they're still able to buy raw materials. What does that mean? It means that they're selling at a high price, squeezed out from somewhere else. If that's the case, their cost won't be enough. Our cost for a bottle of Golden Creation is around 150 renminbi, and they're selling it at 199 renminbi. After deducting the cost, the channel fees, and the retailer's profit, what do they have left? It's just enough. And that's according to our cost. If it's according to their high cost, they'll be making a loss. Yeah. Their price is too low. Kong Guifeng understood the crux of the problem. That's why we just need to wait and see. Xiaolong laughed coldly. I think the opponent is a very rich financial group, and with Guanshuamin's support, they'll naturally want to become famous. But we've already taken over the market, and they can only do so by selling at a low price. If we want to take back the market, we have to lower our prices, and they'll definitely lower their prices again, forcing us to lower our prices. It'll be a vicious cycle. With them in the market, the price of raw materials will increase, and our cost will increase as well. This way, everyone will lose more and more money, and once our House Kang's cash flow is in trouble, we'll be done for. It's a very obvious way to compete in the market, but I have to say that it's very effective. Many people have fallen for it. Xiaolong's right. If we lower our prices for a temporary market share, we'll be falling for the opponent's trap. They'll continue to lower their prices and force us to our deaths. Since they're planning to lose money, they must be very powerful. All we have to do is sit back and watch. Dr. Kong agreed. We won't lower our prices and let them play. Let's see how long they can keep losing money. Son, your analysis is very thorough. I have to say, you're really mean. They're really unlucky to have a competitor like you. Kong Guifeng was very impressed with his son. Dad, are you praising me or scolding me? You said I'm bad. Xiaolong said it like that, but he was actually quite pleased with himself. He had seen through the enemy's scheme, and he felt like he was the fisherman behind the scenes. Of course, under normal circumstances, Xiaolong's idea wasn't wrong at all. In fact, it was quite accurate. However, this matter was unusual. This time, the product we are auctioning is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it is different from the one you can buy on the market. Fatty Lai continued on the stage. This is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it has extraordinary effects. Not only does it have the basic effects of an injury medicine, but it also has the effect of beautifying the skin. The magic of our injury medicine is that it can heal wounds quickly without leaving any scars, and this deluxe edition can repair some old scars, completely removing these old scars. Of course, this is only the main effect. There are many other auxiliary effects, such as beautifying, improving skin tone, removing dull skin, shrinking pores, and so on. Fatty Lai's words plunged the crowd into an awkward silence and an instant uproar. This special edition injury medicine actually had the same effect as the skin beautifying Golden Creation medicine that Dr. Kong had given him yesterday. What was going on in this world? How could something so coincidental happen? 2 days ago, 2 different pharmaceutical companies brought out the finale products of the auction, but they were shockingly similar. House Kang's face changed instantly. Miracle Dr. Kang's face darkened. He was now certain that his brother had taken a peek at the recipe and told it to Xuamin. Otherwise, why would Guan Xuamin have the formula for the skin beautifying Golden Creation? But he didn't call it by that name. He called it the special edition injury medicine. They're obviously going against our House Kong. Guifeng's face was dark as well. No wonder they wanted that 1,000-year-old snow lotus yesterday. It turns out that they know how to use it as well. But they didn't get it, did they? Why are they still auctioning it? Aren't they afraid of running out of stock? If I'm not wrong, they've probably gotten their hands on a Millennium Snow Lotus before. Dr. Kong said, "It's hard to find, but it's not impossible to find." Didn't we just find one? With Guan Xuemin's reputation, it's too easy for him to get his hands on rare ingredients. Grandpa, about us becoming a noble house. Xiaolong was most worried about becoming a noble house. I'm afraid that the situation has changed. Dr. Kong was worried as well, but he couldn't do anything about it. Who asked them to be so unlucky? Encountering something like this. No wonder House Yu was looking at us weirdly yesterday. They knew about it. They didn't even tell us about it beforehand. They're obviously trying to embarrass us. Hatred flashed across Xiaolong's eyes. If House Kong couldn't become a noble house, there would be more variables in the future. Guan Xuemin, you're too much. Kong Guifeng laughed coldly, then let's see who's going to win. Fatty Lai left after the introduction. Next up was the auctioneer's job. In fact, there wasn't really a need for an auction. After what happened with House Kong yesterday, Fatty Lai suggested to Lin Yi to increase the number of bottles, and Fatty Lai reluctantly gave up 10 bottles that belonged to his family, making it 30 bottles in total. He also suggested to Lin Yi to increase the number of pre-authorizations by 50. This was also what he learned from House Kong. The goal was to attack House Kong. In any case, they had already become competitors. Fatty Lai wanted to spend some time to convince Lin Yi, but Lin Yi agreed immediately when he heard that it was to attack House Kong. Lin Yi was duty-bound to avenge his little brother, Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi was especially impressed that Fatty Lai was willing to give up the portion that belonged to him. This made Lin Yi slowly accept Fatty Lai, and he was ready to make him his confidant.